Race control to all teams. Bring the cars to pit road, please. Bring the cars to pit road.
And with those words from race control, Jim Haynes calls the cars from the garage area to pit lane. The Indycar Series oval track season is about to begin on the high banks of Kansas Speedway. The 2009 IndyCar season. The first two races came on road courses with twists and turns and a display of drama.
Oh, Ray Hall is spinning. He is done.
Contact. Both are hard into the wall.
I don't crash.
Something's wrong. Under yellow.
From the road to the ovals at more than twice the speed. Today, drivers push to the corners of their first oval race of the season. Kansas Speedway, a place where Dan Weldon has dominated the last two races.
Dan Weldon, the Englishman, will win once again.
The first repeat winner at Kansas. 2 years in a row, it's Dan Weldon.
If you win Kansas, you take the momentum to Indianapolis.
It's the last turn before the month of May at the Brickyard, where the road leads to the Indianapolis 500 title. In less than 1 hour, the Indy cars will be traveling at speeds well over 200 miles an hour. Welcome to IndyCar Central on Versus as we get set for the Kansas Indy 300. Very windy at Kansas today, 25-mile-an-hour winds gusting to 35. But the strong winds are not keeping the fans away. They're here, and so are we, ready for action. Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Jenkins, and as was the case yesterday, it is very windy here at Kansas, and there is a chance of rain. Now, yesterday, the rain didn't arrive until evening. Hopefully, that's the way it'll be today, and we can get this race in its entirety. This is the first oval track race of the year, and it is also the final one before the Indianapolis 500. Believe it or not, peak pole qualifying for the Indy 500 is less than 2 weeks away. And speaking of qualifying, here at Kansas yesterday, a couple of very interesting developments. Dario Franchitti was on the pole for a while, but got the left side tires under the white line, which had been declared out of bounds by IndyCar Series President of Competition, Brian Barnhart. The same thing happened to Elio Castroneves. Both had their qualifying runs disallowed, and both will start at the back of the field. Robert Dornbos, in his first season in the IndyCars and very first race on an oval, driving for Newman Haas Lanigan, shocked the crowd with, at that time, third best speed. But then the very last qualifier, his teammate, Graham Rahal, clocked in with an astounding 2:11.311, good enough for the peak pole position, his second already this year. Members of the front row are with our pit strategist, Jack Arute.
And Bob, it's only fitting that in the land of Oz, Kansas, Newman Haas Lanigan Racing should score their first IndyCar front row sweep. Now, Robert Dornbos, I want to start with you first. You've had Arie Luyendyk, two-time Indy 500 champion, tutoring you about qualifying. What has he told you about the race itself?
Yeah, no, it's great to have Arie here. It's keep turning left. That was one of the first phrases he said, and no, it's good. He gives good advice, and he was a bit surprised in qualifying as well that I got to grips with the track quite quick, and we did a good lap, and yeah, now we're up in the front row, so it's not bad. But for sure next month he's going to be even more helpful in Indianapolis.
Now, when you look to the side, you're going to see your teammate here. I like to call him Ronald McDonald, but let's talk for a moment when you saw your teammate go out the way he did and post that fast time. What did you think?
Well, I mean, it was pretty impressive, and they told me, you know, obviously I'm sitting in the car already. I can't really hear what the guy in the PA is saying, but they told me, hey, you know, Robert just did this time and everything. And so I was thinking, you know, that's pretty good. You know, if he can do that, we as teammates, we ought to be able to do at least that. And we went out, and sure enough, you know, the car felt really good. I mean, my warm-up lap was as quick as, you know, I think a mile an hour quicker than Dixon went. And so I was thinking, you know, if we can just keep this going, we'll be in good shape.
If you have to pick one thing that you can take from the pole position and translate and parlay into a trip to victory lane here, what would it be?
We need to run out front. I mean, the wind today is absolutely horrible. You know, I think I've raced in rain, I've raced in everything, but after practice this morning, I'm not sure I've raced in anything as treacherous as 30-mile-an-hour winds on an oval at 200 miles an hour. So for us, really, I think the biggest thing is that we got to keep the McDonald's car up front and have good pit stops and just kind of we can pace this race, and that's what we need to do.
Well, Robbie, if either of these guys hope to best and be the best in victory lane today, well, they're going to have to beat the undisputed Wizard of Kansas, aren't they?
You're exactly right. And you know, Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz wanted to click her heels and head back to Kansas. There's one man who has such great success on this track, and I'm quite sure he's been clicking those Pumas ready to come back.
Dan Weldon has made quick work of the Penske cars. He moves to second. Got a race for the lead off of turn number 2. Weldon trying to pull up on his good friend Tony Kanaan. Dan Weldon will be the leader with 9 of 200 laps complete. Dan Weldon will win this one.
Scott Dixon surrenders the lead to teammate Dan Weldon. And look what happened. He gets around the slower traffic, and Tony Kanaan is boxed. That may have just sealed the deal for Dan Weldon. His 14th career win. He'll become the first repeat winner at Kansas.
Well, Dan Weldon, solid is the word to describe him. I mean, 382 laps that he's led here and only 1,054. A couple of seconds in the last 2 races, both taking the victory here. This is a guy who loves this track, and I'm quite sure you've been clicking those Pumas in camouflage, I might add, as well, ready to come back to this place, huh?
Yeah, it's obviously been a great track for me, and you know, it's a race that I just seem to, or a racetrack I seem to go very well at. But you know, at Panther Racing, we've had a good car this weekend. Unfortunately, I got a little too brave in qualifying and made the car way too loose. But I think we have a reasonable race car. Obviously, the wind is just playing havoc with everybody. But hopefully, we're on top of that and we'll have a good race.
I know it's a team effort in Panther Racing looking for their first ever victory here in Kansas, but you said something then. You made the car too loose. When I talked to you after qualifying yesterday, you said the team made it a little too loose for you. I'm hearing some difference.
Well, you win as a team and you lose as a team. I mean, that's certainly the motto at Panther Racing, and we've got a lot of hard work to do to make sure that we're in victory lane. You know, not just once, but on a regular basis. But I certainly came to this team believing that that's going to be the case, and certainly with the help of National Guard and everybody on board, you know, we're pushing hard. So this I would like, and I think it's probably a good opportunity for us to potentially get a first win, but that's by no means underestimating the competition. It's incredibly tight this year.
It's not underestimating the competition because you are so strong here, guys. He's moving up in the point standings, especially after finishing 5th last week at Long Beach.
All right, thanks, Robbie. Heading into this third race of 17, Dario Franchitti, by virtue of his win last Sunday in Long Beach, has the points lead. Will Power, second in points, is not entered in this race. He will be back in Indy. Don't forget, Graham Rahal gets a point for the pole. These top 10 drivers represent 7 different teams. I'm on my way to the booth. Lindy Thaxton will be here in a moment, and Dario Franchitti and Tony Kanaan will be here soon. This is IndyCar Central on Versus. Stay with us.
Did as usual and sat at home and came up with this crazy idea that if he wins a race first, I've got to shave all my hair off. If I win the race first, he's got to grow it.
Next time you guys see Tony Kanaan, he's going to start growing his afro, and it's going to get progressively bigger as the year goes on.
Well, guys, take a look. This is my hair now, so I'm going to let it grow until I win. So I guess I'll win Kansas again next week, and then I get to shave my hair and his head. So we'll see. I hope we can do that.
Welcome back to IndyCar Central on Versus from Kansas Speedway. I'll be talking to Dario and TK in just a moment about that wager. They will join me up here shortly. Like we've mentioned, this is the first race in 2009 on an oval. An oval is where the world of spotters really comes into play. Each team has one, and they will guide their driver around this 1.5-mile track from high atop the grandstands. Yesterday, Jack Arute spent some time up there.
What might be a driver's very best friend is located high atop each speedway and atop the highest point on a grandstand. They are the driver's spotters. Their role is multifunctional. Not only do they have to try and help a driver negotiate through a crash area avoiding debris, oftentimes they have to play part strategist, part coach, and part Dr. Phil. There's a camaraderie amongst drivers and their spotters, but there's also a camaraderie amongst spotters themselves. Sometimes they play a critical role in finding a drafting partner by going down to a fellow spotter and trying to hook up a deal. The tools of the trade are pretty straightforward. A radio, a set of binoculars, and a special vibrating buzzer that's directly connected to race control.
2-4 jumped right up in front of the 2-car at speed down the back there.
The critical moment here in race control is when a caution comes out and this toggle switch is turned on. A radio frequency goes to the cars, to the teams, and also to a pager attached to each individual driver spotter. A built-in redundancy so that when the track goes yellow, everybody can slow down as quickly as possible.
Got a pack of 5 in 1 and 2 right now.
Well, we're very fortunate here on Versus. My partner has experienced it both as a driver and as a spotter. So, Robbie Buell, let me put your helmet back on. When you had a spotter, what did you want to hear from him?
Well, when I was in the cockpit, what I wanted to hear is he's an extra set of eyes. I don't want him looking right in front of the car because I can do that. I want him looking ahead, maybe telling me what's going on behind me, what's developing on the racetrack. But if there's an incident out there, I want to tell him where I got to go to avoid that. Sometimes you need a motivator. Now, if they talk too much, I had that unique ability that I just take him whatever I want, and I didn't hear what I didn't want to hear.
And then you moved topside, and you became a spotter yourself. Did it change the way you went about things?
It did. You know, a lot of people said, oh, going up to spotting, you know, that's a big responsibility. For me, it was a really easy transition. The one thing that I was spotting was if I looked away from the track for a moment and then I was looking back to the track, I'm like, where's my car? Where's my, you know, you have that little anxiety of picking up your car. But no, you know, I knew what the driver wanted to hear. And the last thing you want to do is come on the driver's headset right when he's in the middle of something, and being in the cockpit at one point, you hopefully know when that is the right time to motivate him or to say nothing or to say the right things.
I just want to remind you, when you're spotting, you're not supposed to be watching the race, okay? Use your head. Hey, one thing I do know, Lindy Thaxton, whoever gets to victory lane today, well, he's going to give credit to his crew chief, to his crew, but he's also going to call out his spotter as well.
Yeah, clearly, Jack, there is a lot of confidence between a driver and his or her spotter. And just of note, more than half the drivers today are working with their spotter for the very first time. Well, Dario Franchitti will have to work his way through the field today, but he is certainly no stranger to Victory Circle. He has won 9 times on an oval, and he is coming off of a road course win at Long Beach.
The 35th running of the Toyota Grand Prix of Long Beach. And the green flag is out. Here we go.
And Power got a great jump. Franchitti has already lost 2 spots.
Franchitti will take 3rd spot from Justin Wilson. Dario Franchitti taken 2nd from Rafael Matos.
Power down, boys.
The green flag waves once again. Franchitti punches it. The checkered flag waves for Dario. It's his 9th career win.
That exercises a lot of demons there. Yeah, it does.
Okay, guys, thanks for being here. Looking good.
Yeah, you're making fun of me already, huh?
No, I'm not making fun of you.
Thanks.
Yeah, he's going to look really nice in a couple of weeks. We came up with some new rules for this bet. Tony's now he's going to grow his hair through Indy. So even if he does win,
no matter
what happens today. So if he does win the Indy 500, he's going to have a nice fro on the Borg Warner. So we'll see what happens.
Hold on a second. It matters today because if I win, I'll shave his head, but I'm not allowed to cut my hair until after the 500. So I guess you guys are going to see an Afro Tony pretty soon.
An Afro Tony, sounds good. Okay, well, let's talk about qualifying with you, Dario. Tough start, possibly the toughest start because you're starting at the back of the grid. You've started here 4 times, though. You were near the top and then dropped to the end because you crossed the white line. What do you have to do at this point to get to the front and stay there?
Yeah, absolutely. We were, I think we're 2nd quickest, but I crossed the line just to start finish. I actually touched the line and the seam dragged me across it. So a rule's a rule. I was below the white line and the official sent me to the back, and I'm fine with that. The Nicorette car is fast, but with this wind today, it's going to be a really, really tough. But 200 laps, at least probably 4 pit stops. It should be pretty interesting.
Well, Dario, we're going to let you go ahead and get over to driver intros over there. Tony, stay with us. We're going to talk about qualifying. You were starting 8th. You said that your car was really loose in qualifying and you were not happy with it, with where you ended up. What are your concerns today?
Well, like everybody else, I mean, it was the wind. I mean, we were too greedy in qualifying for sure, and we tried to put it on the pole, and actually it cost us a lot. But today the conditions are really bad, and I think if you talk to any other driver, everybody's concerned. So it's basically going to be about surviving, and there is no 2 grooves yet because of the rain. The track's being really dirty, so we'll see what's going to happen.
You won here in 2005, pulled here in 2007. How much does race history matter once you get out there on race day?
I finished 2nd here last year. It doesn't really matter. Somebody told me that when I won here in 05, I started 8th. So I guess I'm starting 8th today, but it makes me feel good, but I don't think it matters. The way that the field is so competitive right now. So I want to say hi to my son at home. That he's watching his first race that he understands, and my family.
Cool.
So see you guys.
Thank you, Tony. We'll let you get going. Good luck to you today. And there is a good possibility that TK will be able to cut his hair. Well, gosh, I guess they changed the bet now, huh? He has won at least 1 oval each year since 2003. And there are 3 women in the field this year at Kansas. Milka Duno making her first start, as is Sarah Fisher, and she has the added responsibility of being a driver owner.
Right now, even in our 2nd year of business as a race team, you know, we're having a lot of growing pains. I have so many responsibilities of an owner on top of being a driver. You know, meetings with engineers and trying to talk to sponsors, and it's kind of challenging. All the folks that we have at our team sort of bounce me around to the different locations, so I'm very thankful that they're there. It's something I enjoy. It's something I'm very passionate about. Why else would I start a race team? I love racing, and I'll always be a part of it.
Here at Versus Indycar Central, the drivers are being introduced. Kansas Speedway is filling up as the wind blows, and we hope the rain holds off. It has been a tough start for defending champion Scott Dixon, finishing 16th at St. Pete, finishing 15th at Long Beach, and at the moment he finds himself 17th in the point standings.
It was a tough day. You know, you always had to try and outbrake somebody into one or some other area.
Scott Dixon is losing a ton of time. They still don't have him in his spots.
Look at his left front. His left front was stuck.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. Right over the backside of Dixon.
Oh, from behind, there was contact.
Oh, Dixon.
Briscoe hits him.
Well, Dixon has lost a lap.
Yeah, just a bad day, sort of tumbled into more bad things, but looking forward to Kansas. When you got a fast car, you can definitely make it to the front on an oval.
Scott Dixon, so strong in 2008 in the 11 oval races, 5 wins, including that big race, the Indianapolis 500, but also never finished lower than 4th place on those ovals. That is a remarkable record, Scott. I know you're ready to pick up where you left off last year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to try. You know, the target car's been strong this weekend. I don't know, the field seems to have closed up a little bit this year. I think with the change in rules and things like that, it's not enabled the teams to develop things in different areas, and you know, it's going to be a tough race, and we're starting 4th. Dario's coming up the back there with the Indycar car, so we've got the field covered, I think, right over the whole distance. So, but we've got to try and go for a win. You know, we're back a long ways on points now, and we've really got to pick it up.
And aren't you owed one at this track? Didn't you have the car to maybe win last year and take it from Dan Weldon?
Yeah, you know, the team did well last year. Target won, obviously, with Dan, but you know, we definitely need to pick it up, and I think Kansas owes me one, so hopefully it does today.
What about Robert Dornbos being just in front of you? Is there any concern there with him being a rookie at his first time on this course?
You know, it's to say a concern. I think that's, you know, that's not the word I'd use. You know, I think the guy's obviously very accomplished. He's a good driver, and you know, it's daunting to go on your first oval and try and pick up what a lot of guys have been doing for years. So, you know, hopefully he keeps it clean and has a great day. But, you know, I suspect he's going to be as quick as everybody else.
So that may not be the word to use, but when you have a guy his first time out there in that first lap, it could get ugly. Jack, you with EJ?
Yeah, and Robbie, one of the things you're going to watch is he's qualified only in the 18th position, but when you put EJ Viso in the back of the pack, especially on an oval, boy, does he move to the front. Take a look at 2008 and the record. It seems like every time he didn't qualify very well on an oval, by the end of the day, he was up front. He knows how to bring a car to the front, and today, E.J. Viso, you're going to have to do it again. How many chances do you take when you're trying to navigate through to the front of the pack?
Well, fortunately, we're in a small team, and our potential is getting better every time, but you know, in racing, the opportunities are very few, and you need to take any chance, any opportunity you can find in the track. Today is going to be a very tough race. I'm starting dead last. It's extremely windy, and I will go for it. I have nothing to lose. I'm starting the back of the pack, so this should be a good one.
Now, you're a thrill seeker. You like to try all sorts of things. We've seen you on IndyCar television with a unicycle, but tell me a little bit about your pet boa constrictor.
Well, I have a very cute pet. Her name is Tracy, and it's back in Barcelona. It's the boa albina, and I love it. Yeah, it's a snake.
Well, I don't think he's going to have to carry the snake, Lindy, but I'm trying to arrange to see if we can have the snake flown into Indy so we can send it over to you.
I'm not scared. That doesn't scare me, Jack. Well, coming up, Elio Castroneves back in the driver's seat and back with us live on IndyCar Central on Versus. Welcome back to IndyCar Central on Versus, live from Kansas Speedway. As we've mentioned, 3 women will be taking the green flag here at Kansas today. For Danica Patrick, she has good memories of Kansas. This is where she achieved her first career pole in 2005. Of course, Danica has the only series win, and the 1-year anniversary of that victory was last Monday.
Danica pulls up on Elio Castroneves. They're going side by side. Danica Patrick is the leader.
She's starting to pull away from him already into turn number 1.
Only a few hundred yards away from making history.
Boys, move over. The lady is coming through. Danica Patrick wins at Twin Ring Motegi.
It's a long time coming, finally.
It was a happy, emotional moment for you at Motegi. We're celebrating that anniversary this week, but it had to be a pretty emotional moment for you last week, having the car that wasn't the fastest, but still putting it in 4th spot.
This just shows kind of what the weather's like today here. Let's just put a headband on. Yeah, it was, you know, remembering Motegi is always a good memory, and then it was nice to have such a good result at Long Beach. We had struggled so much in practice and qualifying, and then, you know, really got to turn it around in the race with good strategy and then the ability to maintain and run good pace while still saving the fuel it took to make it a 2-stop race. So, good memories.
Coming into this first oval, things are looking well for you. You're just behind Graham Rahal. You like the ovals, don't you?
I do, yeah. They, the ovals are, the race is the tough part. You know, I think, you know, on the road courses, everything leading up to it is sort of the stressful, hard part. And then when the race comes, it's usually about saving a little bit of fuel and being smart and still maintaining pace. But you're holding back a little bit to be able to, you know, do less stops. Where here, you stop under yellow, and you know, you really are kind of dictated by the yellow flags. So, you know, you're really racing hard the entire time. So we've got pivotal conditions today.
That's the business side of things. Back to the fun side for Danica Patrick, the Shape magazine cover, another cover for you, or another magazine for you. You're just all model now, it seems.
No, I'm not, but I get to do some fun things in the off season, and you know, most all that stuff really gets done in the winter months when I'm able to prepare properly for those kinds of photo shoots. So I'm really excited to be on the cover of Shape. It's my first girl cover, like real girl cover. So I've always read the issues, so it's a real honor to be on that cover.
Well, it's a women's magazine, Lindy, but I'm sure quite a few guys are going to be picking up that issue.
Well, when I went to buy mine, I can tell you there weren't many left. Well, of course, the big news in Long Beach was the return of Elio Castroneves. After his acquittal on tax evasion charges, he finished 7th. But for Elio, just to return to racing was victory in itself.
It's been an emotional weekend at that. The reason for the emotion, certainly the return of Helio Castroneves on Friday just before 2 o'clock when the word came that Helio and his sister Kati had been cleared of the tax evasion charges that had kept Helio out of a race car for nearly 6 months.
Oh, it's nice to be back. Oh, my God.
I love you. I'm so glad to see you.
Okay.
He is back. He is ready to race. He is happy.
All right, bud, we're P9 right now. P9, tell us about it.
Yeah, it's just getting sliding quite a lot all over the place. I just pushed the wall.
3 minutes, P11. 3 minutes, P11.
It's a lot of understeer now.
All right, last lap. One more lap. One more lap. P8, bud. You need a 9.8. You need a 9.8.
Oh, and Helio has had contact. Wow.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
You ready?
Yeah. I was born ready.
Hey, you ready here, bud? Spot one. Green, green, green. Reset your fuel. Watch Rick here. Watch Rick. Go, go, go. You got him on your left. You got him on your left. You're good. You're good. You're good. Good job there, bud. Just like the old days.
Like Mario Marias had to get on the brakes, hit the tire barrier. And
how bad that yellow hurt us?
Yeah, yellow killed us. We're probably going to come out second there. Now, these guys aren't going to have to stop, so we're just racing from here.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Kind of back where we started, dude.
Oh, by the way, when I had a clear lap, man, that was awesome. Carlos handling okay, especially if I would have had new tires.
Yeah, yellow car's a lap down, so he's going to make it a mess there. The yellow car's a lap down.
A guy that has run so well as we have a close confrontation there.
There was contact.
Yeah.
Carpenter.
Checker flag. Checker flag. Let's stick with it there. P7 today. P7. Good job.
To be back in the car, to be back on racing, to talk about racing, man.
you drove a good race. There's nothing we can do.
It was like a Sunday drive, except I wasn't in the front. Thank you. Thank you so much. This is what I love, and I'm so glad to be back.
It was a special day for Helio Castroneves, taking 7th place, but actually getting back in the race car. This is the first time you've been in an oval since that victory at Chicagoland. How does it feel so far?
Well, so far it feels great. You know, my guys, they've been spectacular. You know, Team Penske's been awesome. They were able to let me take in my time, you know, especially in oval when everything goes so fast. And slowly but surely we're making the change in the car, and certainly we had a very fast car. Unfortunately, we started in the back, but we have a long race ahead of us.
You were very happy yesterday when you got out of the car. You didn't think the car would be that strong for all 4 laps, did you?
Yeah, I mean, we knew that it had a strong car, but I wasn't expecting to be that fast, you know. But again, the guys did a fantastic job, and hopefully today we're going to have a good race.
Well, there's a lot of wind, probably 30 mile an hour and more with the gust. How does it affect you?
Well, it's not only affect me, but affect everybody. That's the good news. The bad news is it's always very difficult for you to run in the ovals when you have a strong wings like that. So hopefully everybody be smart. You know, we're trying to make some adjustment on the car to be more downforce. And hey, like I said, it's going to be a fun ride.
7 years you've been racing here, 1,400 laps. You have to be physically fit. And we saw that little piece on Danica Patrick just a moment ago. We got to see her magazine cover. Should that be the new manual for the IndyCar series? I'm thinking that should be what you go for. Take a look at your reaction when you saw Danica's little piece right there.
Well, look, I'm sorry, but I didn't see that magazine before, and she's looking, well, pretty fit.
Looks pretty good, doesn't she?
That's pretty good, you know. She's, I tell you, she's going to do well. She have a very good car as well, but she does look pretty good in that magazine.
Maybe we'll see you in muscle and health.
Hey, I don't know.
Hang on, is that your suit? Are you blushing a little bit?
I'm sorry, man. You're catching me a little bit on guard here, but hey, let's talk about race. Hopefully we're going to have fun.
We are going to have fun. I'm sure everybody's going to have a lot of fun watching him go from the back row, hopefully up to the front, Jack.
And Robbie, this is the first time in, well, in quite some some time that Helio Castroneves is back on the oval, as you alluded to, but the guy that filled in admirably for Helio Castroneves is not on the grid here as the Penske Verizon wireless car gets ready for the Indy 500. We're talking about the man that finished second last week. That, of course, Will Power, filled in so well, Roger Penske, while Helio was absent, and now he's not here. How tough was that decision to make?
Well, I think you got to take your head off to Will as we set up the season with Elio with his situation and knowing that hopefully he'd be back in the seat. Will agreed to take on this assignment, and again, we had a car ready last week for him. Elio was back, which was great, and again, he did a terrific job. But I think the key thing is Will's a guy in our team for the future, and we will have a car for him at Indianapolis. And remember, 30 years ago, Rick Mears took a temporary ride because Mario Andretti was running in Formula One, and guess what? He won 4 Indy 500s.
And we've got Rick Mears here, and Rick, one of the things that I found interesting is this guy, the captain, had to sit you down for a couple of races because Mario was available. How tough as a driver was it?
Well, hey, it's tough as a driver because you want to compete. But, you know, I knew, like Roger said about Will, I knew that going in. I knew that was part of the situation. But I also knew that even a part-time deal with Roger's operation would by far be better for me than a full-time deal at most. So it was not that hard to do. It's hard because you're a competitor, but it's not hard because you know the situation and the team you're involved with.
You spent a lot of time last week, especially down in the Verizon pit. You got a chance to see Will after the race. Did you give him any or impart to him any words of wisdom?
Well, you know, just you try to help it any way you can, but it's mainly just hang in there. You know, timing's everything, and you just got to wait and see how things fall. You know, and which is what we did, and things fell our direction. So he did a great job for us, and I think he's going to do a great job at Indianapolis. We're looking forward to getting him there.
One final question about today, Roger Penske. It's the Kansas Indy 300, but are you racing for 300 miles, or is it 150 with the way the weather is?
Well, I think we're going to race for 300, I hope, but with this wind, it's going to be unbelievable. We've never had a circumstance like this that I've seen in a number of years. Lots of new drivers. A lot of people haven't been on ovals like this before, so we got to watch, but we got to be there at 150 also.
Yeah, guys, I think that was the key when he said we got to be there at 150. A little bit later, I'm going to give you my strategy about how that might just work out and send someone to victory lane. The cars are lined up. We're just waiting for the call for drivers to strap in. And then get ready, because we're counting down the clock for the start of the Kansas Indy 300. You'll see it all here on Versus.
The start of the Kansas Indy 300 just moments away. You know, when we see in-car shots, it appears sometimes the driver is just on a Sunday drive. But Jan Bika says there's really a lot going on in the cockpit.
In oval track racing, track conditions are always changing, and with tire wear, it means the balance of the race car always moves around. Now, in those circumstances, a driver's best friend is oftentimes the weight jacker. Now, in Dan Wheldon's case, he has 2 buttons on either side labeled WJ. He can press those and then get an indicator on the dash as to what position he's in. Now, here's what it does. It runs a hydraulic motor that then moves hydraulically a cylinder that's at the base of the right rear shock absorber. It's kind of like having a table on an uneven surface, and you would put a shim under one leg to balance it back in. Now, what's really cool about this system, this is a $50,000 computer-controlled system that you can program. So you can take a remote laptop and make any of those buttons do anything you want. In Dan Wheldon's case, he likes 5 pounds of change for each press of the button. But what's really cool is if you press both buttons at the same time, you can program it to do whatever you want. Let's say you're coming in for a pit stop. You could press both buttons and preload the car. Because the banking on pit road is different than the racetrack, it would make the car brake in a straight line.
And here now with my booth mates, Jan over on my far left and Robbie Buell. So, Jan, this first oval track race of the year, will we see a lot of that weight jacking going on?
Oh, yeah. We're going to see a lot of movement going on because of the wind. You've heard the drivers talk about it. Robbie, when I talked to the drivers after this morning's warm-up, it was just like what we heard from Graham Rahal, treacherous. With this wind, the car's going to be moving around. Think about the concentration. You have to think about the wind. The car's so close to you at over 200 miles an hour. And then you don't want your car imbalanced, Robbie, because if it does, you'll wear the tires and then really be in big trouble.
You do. And all that sums up experience. The drivers with the most experience out here, I think, are really going to be the ones that have a big payday. And it's all about timing the pass. You want to set yourself up. You want to figure out where the the strengths and weaknesses are of the guys in front of you. And if you time it wrong and you get the door shut on you, you're going to dump the throttle and lose 2 spots. So you really need to plan ahead. You heard how important the spotters were. The spotters got to give the drivers that little tee up to say, hey, this is what's going on in front of you.
All right, now, after this race, of course, the Indianapolis 500, as a car owner, Robbie, you're, of course, keeping an eye on this race, but are you also looking ahead to Indy?
As a car owner, I don't like the wind here today. but we are on track at Indianapolis, the biggest deal there is, in 10 days. So obviously you want to come out of here with the best possible finish. Everybody here wants to win. But you want to roll the car back on the trailer. You want to have time to massage that car. You don't want to be fixing your cars. You want to massage them to make them perfect for the month of May.
And Jan, as we take a look at the starting lineup for this race, boy, what a difference a year makes.
Yes, 1 year ago, Graham Rahal only qualified 20th here, but I spoke with their crew chief on both cars, Mitch Davis, said last year we just didn't have the parts and pieces that we needed. They've changed the regulations. Everyone's running the same wheelbase now. It says we've had time to put this car together the way we want to. But think about his teammate alongside, Robert Dornbos. He's got a fast car, but starting your first ever race on an oval from the front on a windy day at these kind of speeds, whew, that's going to be tough.
All right, we did pretty well with our predictions last week.
Yeah, some of us.
Sure we did. Well, at Long Beach. I'm predicting the winner today from the back, just like at Chicagoland, Elio Castroneves, and best performance by a non-winner, Sarah Fisher. You, Robbie?
For me, Scott Dixon. He's due to get some points. He's had a really tough time at St. Pete, Long Beach. It's going to be his day. After that, for a non-winner, Ed Carpenter, he's got the experience. We just talked about how important that is, and I think he's got a shot.
I'm going to go with you, Robbie, on Scott Dixon. I think he has the kind of patience that you need here to get the job done. And I'm going with Dornbos. I know you guys have picked people with oval experience. That's really smart, but I'm picking the guy with the fast car.
Jack, we saw who you picked. Why?
Well, I have to agree with what Jan has said, and I think until proven otherwise, when you look at the record of Scott Dixon, it's not on the road courses anymore. It's on the ovals, and he's been phenomenal in the way Dornbos qualified. Ari Leyendijk's at his side. Who knows, he may have given him a few tricks. What about you, Lindy?
I'm going to go with Tony Kanaan to win this one. As we've heard, he has won at least one oval every year since '03. I think he's going to take this one in '09. Best finish by a non-winner, I'm going to go with Dornbos as well. I know it's his first time, but I'm going to give the '06 a shot. What about you, Robbie?
Well, guys, I had Dixon at first, and I had to go for some relief. I had to bring in the righty, Dan Weldon. I think when you've won 2 races in a row, why not go for the turkey and take 3? I don't know if his car is there yet, but when you want experience, you want Dan Weldon in the car in Kansas. Robert Dornbos for my first guy. You put him on the front. He's fast. I saw him practicing in Texas. The guy's strong.
All right, well, you guys at home keep track of who you predict and who we think is going to win the race. Thanks for joining us on IndyCar Central on Versus. Stay tuned. The green flag and the start of the Kansas Indy 300 moments away. It is just about time. Notice it's very cloudy here, but so far we're in good shape as far as rain is concerned. Please stay away so we can get all of this race here in this afternoon. Should be a good one on the high banks of Kansas. For the command, Dan Wright from Time Warner Cable as we get set to get this event underway.
Race fans, are you ready? You're about to hear the most famous words in motorsports. Please welcome back Dan Wright from Time Warner Cable of Kansas City as he gives the command.
Drivers, start your engines.
Engine start command has been given. Starting with row 1, count them off. Race control, row 1, hot. 2, hot. 3, hot. 4, hot. 5, hot. 6, hot. 7, hot. 8, hot. 9, hot. 10, hot.
And 11 row is also hot. We have the entire 22-car starting field under power, and we're just moments away from the cars moving onto the racetrack and the drop of the green flag. Well, let's salute our Peak Pole Award winner again. He is Graham Rahal, who has already this year taken 2 Peak Pole Awards. Yesterday, the very last qualifier, qualifying at 211.311, and he's the man who was on the podium with the check in hand. Congratulations to Graham. Now remember, this year the pole winners get 1 point toward the championship, and Graham is rolling, as are the others. Here's our pit strategist, Jack Arute.
Guys, I know this is the Kansas Indy 300, but if I'm a strategist right now, I'm looking at it as getting to the halfway mark. So what am I going to do with my team? What I'm going to try and do, like on every super speedway, I want to make fuel, but I want to take advantage of some uncertainty in terms of driver combinations, and maybe say there's going to be a couple of cautions. That's going to allow me to get more than 3.2 miles per gallon, be able to make it to the halfway point on one stop. The big key is every strategist has told me they've got to be fluid throughout the first half of the race, trying to have fuel from lap 95 to 105 if it goes to caution for rain to still be with the lead pack. Now, this is the radar right now, and you can see this is 30 miles out the outer band. You can see green, red, and yellow. So it means it's about 45 miles out. Every crew has got one of these radar displays, and of all the telemetry, everything that you measure in real time, all the data, the most imprecise data that they're going to have to rely on today is right here with the weather. Have you ever seen a weatherman be right?
Well, you're right, but that line of showers, it seems, has been there all morning, and it's tended to stay away from us and go north, so let's hope that it continues to do that. Take a look at our starting lineup on all Newman Haas Landing and front row, and these starting lineups this year have really been jumbled, and this week is no exception.
It has definitely been jumbled, and you know, Jack has a very good point. When you're doing the strategy here, you almost need to do a full-length strategy and a half-distance strategy. You can't solely do one. You have to kind of keep your eye on 2 different games and be sure you're not out of it if rain does come.
And like Bob said, we haven't seen any rain all day long. So in my mind, I'm not thinking rain. I absolutely understand the halfway strategy. So if it does rain, you got the race in the books. But when a yellow comes out on an oval, you'll see a lot of guys come in. I don't know what he said. He said you can do it on one stop to get to halfway. Depending on how yellows play out, it is an opportunity for guys to come in and change tires or make some adjustments to the car.
1 to go at the line. Our Mobile One track conditions, 87 degrees is the track temperature, and as we indicated earlier, the winds are gusting up to 35 miles an hour, and the showers are to our west, hopefully staying away.
And you look at that track temperature, that's as cool as we've seen it all weekend. But if you look at those black seams out on the racetrack, it's kind of got a little gooey rubber to it. And when the track does get up over 100 degrees, they're the seams. The guys really hate what that does to wiggle and move the car around. There you see those seams. I mean, so the cooler temperatures, that won't affect the handling and balance of the race car.
Elio Castroneves and Dario Franchitti will be starting at the rear of the field. We'll certainly keep an eye on those two. And E.J. Viso, you saw there in the starting lineup, he is also, in fact, to the right of Elio there. He was put to the back of the pack for failing post-qualifying inspection. I love auto racing, but there is nothing like a high-speed oval track race, and that's what's about to unfold here on Versus. The Apex Brazil green flag is out. Here we go at Kansas.
Remember, on the outside of your screen, that red car there, that's Robert Dornbos, who did a great job in qualifying. But this is his very first oval, first turn 1 at 200+ miles an hour.
And look at that flag blowing right down the backstretch, 25 to 35 miles an hour. The battle is for second as Robert Dornbos is on the high side and loses second spot.
But for a guy doing his first couple of corners on an oval, just to let Scott Dixon go by and follow him, hey, that's good. That's a win for Dornbos.
Survival
Yeah.
right now. We got a lot of racing left.
And Tony Kanaan is to the high side of Danica Patrick, unable to make the pass right now. You'll see some sparks from the bottom side of some of the cars. They're heavy with fuel.
But the reason you're also seeing sparks is when you want more downforce and windy conditions, they lower the cars. So they're hitting on some titanium skid blocks, and yes, they're heavy on fuel, but if you see a lot of sparks, it means they've lowered them to get more grip.
And historically, anytime you saw a car really bottom out like that, that looks like that's really harsh, that's bringing on that sparks. We're looking outboard of Weldon, looking over at Eddie Carpenter right there, side-by-side action. But those guys, when you see those sparks, they really aren't hitting that hard because of the titanium, Jan.
And you hear occasionally, and there was a grabbing of a gear with the paddle shifting on a super windy day. You're getting a push down the back straightaway. You're going to have to grab gears, and as you pick up a toe, you'll see a lot of shifting inside these cars with the paddle shifts. It's going to be a busy day. You're adjusting things in the car. It's going to be crazy with these conditions.
Battle set for 7th is continuing. The National Guard car driven by Dan Weldon is at the moment ahead of Ed Carpenter. And back in the field, we see Dario and Elio moving up through the traffic. Elio is on the high side of Justin Wilson.
And there was a downshift. That's when you get in and you get high and you're starting to lose speed. You grab a lower gear to make sure you keep it in the rev band.
And where that was is right as he was tracking out of turn 2. As soon as you come off, excuse me, not turn 2, turn 4, you're right into the headwind and you drop a gear.
Whoa, it's three wide.
Wow. TK had a notion to go up top of Danica Patrick and thought better of Mario Moraes is on the bottom side.
Well, one of the spotters told me, rule number 1, don't take out your teammates. This is when I call, I say, teammate outside, teammate outside.
and we were talking about timing your pass, setting yourself up. We saw TK had a run. He went to make it 3 wide, but then he had to dump the throttle, and he lost about 10 car lengths. Now he has to regain that momentum back up.
This is the battle for 4th. Moraes and Patrick on board with Tony Kanaan on the right side of your screen.
That was a double move. That was the case where first Tony Kanaan was looking at Danica Patrick, then she made the quick whip to the outside of Mario Moraes, who, by the way, is only doing his 11th oval race ever, running up in 5th right now. That's a nice run.
Graham Rahal has the advantage on Scott Dixon. This is the first time that Graham Rahal has led since he won at St. Petersburg last year in his very first IndyCar Series start. EJ Viso is also moving up. He is up to 16th. Dario is 17th, and Elio is 18th.
And we heard from EJ when he talked to Jack right before the race there. He said, I have nothing to lose. I'm gonna go for it.
That's what you have to say. That's what you have to say. But there has to be some discretion here. This is crazy today with these kind of conditions.
Whoa, and Scott Dixon takes the lead from Graham Rahal.
Now, interestingly enough, I talked to Scott. They were looking back off of Scott, looking right at Graham. You know, everything looks pretty calm there. But this morning, when I talked to Scott after the warm-up, he was out on Franchitti's setup. He said, man, I was having to work in that cockpit. I was pretty nervous. So I don't know if he went back to his setup or not, or he kept what it was. He said, if I'm running fast and I got to hang on to it, I can live with that as long as I'm fast.
And how about Robert Dornbos? He's hanging right in there in 3rd position. The traffic getting settled out just a little bit, but a good run for Robert.
This is perfect conditions for a guy getting used to oval. If you're back there in 10th or 12th place, Robbie, there's all kinds of turbulence. The car's jumping all over the place. But now you're following one of the best or 2 of the best and getting a feel for it.
Let's go back and take a look at how Scott Dixon grabbed the lead from Graham Rahal out of turn number 4.
You can see him carrying the momentum, just pulling alongside there. Nice and clean right at the start-finish line.
A bit of Graham getting high and losing some speed, and Dixon taking advantage.
And so Scott Dixon has stretched his lead by just a little more than a half second over Graham Rahal, with Dornbos running 3rd, Patrick 4th, and Moraes 5th. Stay with us for more on Versus Nonstop.
I didn't see him.
You saw it on our Versus Nonstop. An accident has brought out the caution for the first time, and there is Vitor Mira, and there is the front end of Elio's car.
And we had the opportunity. What you don't have on Versus Nonstop is audio. We were riding on board with Elio, and he started backing out of the throttle because the cars were starting to bottle up ahead, and all of a sudden Vitor slowed, and pow, right into the back was Elio Castro Neves, who obviously has got big time damage on the front.
But they should, with Elio, they should be able to replace that whole nose section. I bet nothing else is damaged on that car because he just kind of center punched him and got the wing. So he should be okay if they can get in and out of the pits without losing a lap.
Now listen to this.
He's on the gas. There it is.
Okay, the timing on the audio was a little bit different than when we were listening to it in real time, but now Viso with his view. And he picked up.
Yeah, he lost a right front wing.
And both of those guys had moved up nicely.
Okay, here we're watching. Boy, he just really checked up there all of a sudden.
Because down on the back straightaway, I just was noting here that because of the wind, he got the wind, he got the air taken off the front of the car, and he had to lift, and that dramatically slowed his progress, and it caused a chain reaction.
And when he lifted there and then went up the track, did you see the rear of the car just had that little wiggle?
Elio had moved up to 13th, Viso 14th, and Franchitti 15th. But he has damage to that car, and Robbie Floyd, he is headed toward you.
Well, I'm down on pit row, but when you guys were talking about how he just ran up and made up that time, Elio's, they are changing that nose piece. But one guy that I talked to before the race started was Mike Conway. He's a rookie. He's going to tell you some things that maybe some of the veterans don't even think about. He said one of the biggest differences is when you did get that wind taking off of your nose, it is so drastic. It is a serious charge into the guy in front of you. And that was the one thing that he told me, probably the biggest thing to notice. And it was a rookie telling me, not none of the veterans, but a rookie said it really takes the wind off of you and you close up some serious speed. And that looked to be the case there.
And what they're trying to do, of course, is keep Elio on the lead lap.
Exactly. They said, let's just clean up the debris, keep the nose on, cycle him to the back of the line here so you don't go down a lap. And then when he comes in, they'll come in, they'll pull that nose cone off. They'll have another one they pop right on. You know, the suspension looked to be fine on that race car. Here comes everybody.
16 laps completed. Here we go. The top three on the left as the rest of the field comes down to their first pit action of the day. Scott Dixon has stopped.
And these should be ultra-fast pit stops because you don't need very much fuel. They've only been out there a little while. You always on ovals stop when there's a caution so you don't lose a lap. And these should be ultra-fast.
Yep, it's really just a matter of getting the tires on and sending them back out.
Let's see who gets out first.
I think it might be Dornbos.
Yeah, it is. Followed by Dixon, then Graham.
Wow, that was some nice work.
All 22 cars came in for the pit stop, some to replace some damage, and you see the work going on in Elio's car right there. Having a bit of a problem getting the front nose off.
There's Dornbos leaving, lighting it up.
Ooh, close to, in fact, he did.
That was teammate.
Yep.
Teammate's right rear, wasn't it?
Just caught that. Now, he may well receive a drive-through penalty for contact. It depends on if they feel that the wheel was positioned correctly. We'll wait to see. But after such a brilliant pit stop and picking up track position, he may be sent to the back.
Under caution here at Kansas, and as you guys speculated, Robert Dornbos, because of the violation on pit road, is going to the back of the field. Let's go down for another pit update from Jack Arute.
Well, I like the way fuel is being made, but sometimes on pit stop, it's a little thing. Let's check this pit stop by Mario Moraes on the KV Racing Special. If you'll notice on the upper part of your screen, when he comes into the pits, these guys did a study about 5 years ago, and you see the umbrella being spun? The study showed that younger drivers are more in tune to something visually getting their attention than something through the headset. So as you can see, look in the left-hand corner, you see the spinning umbrella? That's the 3-2-1 for Mario Moraes. They did the same thing with Will Power. And that's the key for finding your way to the pits. A little different, guys, than what we're used to.
And by the way, the umbrella twirler is Kevin Kalkoven's goddaughter. All right, getting set for a restart as the cars will be led to the green flag by Scott Dixon, Graham Rahal a second, then Marias, Briscoe, and Tony Kanaan.
And Elio did not go down a lap, so they got that nose change. He's still on the lap lead.
E.J. Viso going out of the pit area. He had damage, remember, in that incident. And the Apex Brazil restart is underway. And look at Graham Rahal head to the outside of Scott Dixon to challenge for the lead.
And making it work on the high side. All the drivers said, you know, getting on the high side of the racetrack or on the outside of the racetrack. Look at that, looking right on over the Graham on the high side of the racetrack. That is the tough place to stay, right up there. It's just to keep the car running flat out through there is tough. And, you know, the wind just makes that worse. And sure enough, he just kind of tucked back in behind Scott now.
Now, Graham was fairly comfortable going high in 1 and 2, but nobody likes going high at the moment in 3 and 4 because of the wind direction.
He actually said to me, he said, I don't remember when I've been holding the wheel so tight after practice this morning.
Ooh, look at that. That was a wiggle. Ooh, yeah. That was a wiggle by, and we're seeing High Briscoe on the outside of Tony Kanaan. They're going wheel to wheel as well.
That's the battle for 4th position. Ooh. Look how close they come at over 208 miles an hour.
And remember, you have the wind that's blowing down at you in 3 and 4, but then when the cars get closer together like that and the wind starts swirling around the race cars, it can kind of push them back and forth there. And we just saw Kanaan kind of go up at Briscoe. That's just wind play movement. That wasn't him doing anything. That's just movement in the race car.
Side-by-side racing here almost all the way back through the field. Your guy Ed Carpenter's looking good there in the Menards car for Vision Racing.
Yeah, he likes the bottom of the racetrack, as Jan just said about getting up to the high side in 3 and 4. None of the drivers are liking that. He's one of them. He said, but I'm good down low, so I'm going to stay there.
One word we haven't mentioned that is certainly a factor in this kind of racing is drafting. Tell me about how the car reacts in the draft.
First of all, you pick up speed. Essentially, you saw Danica Patrick just now. She got a draft on the bright yellow car of Ed Carpenter, and it slingshotted her into position. But now she has to try and keep the momentum. The car doesn't have as much grip high, so she lost that slingshot because of the grip factor. See how much he comes back because his car, Robbie, like you said, works much better low.
Yeah. There's Ed Carpenter with a good draft going right there on EJ.
So here is what led up with Danica. Look at the closing rate when you get behind and you pick up that draft. It gets you into position, and there you say, oh, she's got the spot, but it gets you into position, but you have to have the car to hold it. In her case, it's not working well high, and she's going to lose another spot because she gets high.
Timing the pass, setting yourself up so you don't go backwards.
Losing the spot to Dan Weldon. There he is in the National Guard car. Up on the high side of EJ Viso, who did lose a lap, repairing the damage in the incident. So he is a lap down. Back in 21st position, Vitor Mira is the one who suffered the most damage in that first accident.
Another thing that's been a really key factor with all this wind that's been blowing here, the guys are putting a little more downforce in the race cars just to get grip. But as you get up the racetrack, the higher groove in the racetrack is less and less grip. And that's a word that I heard from a lot of guys. How do I get more grip from the race car? And that was just part of the challenge and the balancing act around here, Jan.
Now, right in the middle of that, Robbie, we're seeing lots of people go around the outside of EJ Viso or trying to. Remember, he went on to pit road and has lost a lap. So he is not in contest directly with these positions. He's trying to stay low, and people are trying to get by him.
Yeah, but he's not going to just get off the throttle.
I wasn't saying that, but I'm just saying that does change the dynamic somewhat.
Elio's moving up. He's to 13th right now. Robbie?
Well, guys, you were talking about the guys looking for more grip, and the changes I saw just a moment ago walking up and down pit row, the tire pressure change was the major change. Throwing in as much fuel as they can, new tires, but dropping the tire pressure, some on the right side only, but at least in the rears, dropping down at least 1 pound. Jack?
Robbie, in addition, one thing, and I like the move that Tim Cindric did on Helio Castroneves. He had the problems, they made the repairs, but just prior to going back to the green flag, they topped off that 22-gallon fuel cell. So in essence, Helio Castroneves has more fuel than anybody else right now. EJ Viso tried a similar move, and it beat him. It bit him because he wasn't able to get back out before the green flag was blown. Castroneves has a slight advantage right now.
That was fun, wasn't it, watching him sneak up on that 5 car, or the 2 car rather. Yeah.
That is momentum, man. and you have, at this racetrack, these guys, you want to be flat out. That throttle is all the way down. Now, sure, when you get in some traffic, you're going to have to kind of lift back and forth. But when you have the momentum going like that, look at that. He's already opened up 5 car lengths on Rafa.
Let's take a look at our GoDaddy biggest movers. Castro Neves from 21st to 12th. Franchitti has moved up 7 spots. Tony Kanaan 5. And Ed Carpenter 4. GoDaddy.com, where you can make the web your domain with .com name for less than $1 a month.
Now you talk about Castro Neves starting at the back, but he's doing it twice.
Yeah.
Because he went to the back, obviously, with qualifying, then went to the back with the contact. You talk about that momentum. Look at him with the momentum here, easy for me to say, on the outside. But Robbie, when he got into that accident before, it was just like this. He had picked up speed, then he saw a problem ahead, and he lifted. In this case, he's not. He's staying as close as he possibly can, grabs a lower gear, doesn't want to get too high in 3 and 4.
And what I look there to is look to his hands. He just had nice input. Sometimes you have people that are sawing at the wheel, so he's turning back to the right. He just had a nice, smooth input. So that Penske machine's a nice handling race car. But Elio knows what he wants from the race car. He's patient enough out there to work with his engineers to give himself a race car. But he's still struggling to get by Hideki.
The side-by-side battle for 10th position. Elio moves ahead of Hideki and takes that spot. Well, we are 35 laps into this race. Scott Dixon is the leader. We have had some early excitement in this first part of the Kansas IndyCar 300.
Race number 3 on the 2009 IndyCar Series schedule.
Oval track season is about to begin on the high banks of Kansas Speedway.
Start your engine.
Ewan starting with row 1, got him off.
Here we go at Kansas. Say in that race, but fortunately nobody injured. And EJ Viso has some serious problems. It looks like it's going to take him out of the race. And look at Dan Weldon and Mario Moraes battling it out.
And Weldon, he was working on Ed Carpenter. You know, he just kept working on the high side. He's by Ed, so now he's just doing the same thing to Mario. And he'll stay up alongside him. There he is on the outside of Mario. And he's already got the pass done. That's good. But sometimes you got to stay up on the high side for 2 laps before the time you get by him, just because anytime you're on the higher side of the racetrack, it's a little longer way around, and it doesn't happen just at the snap of a finger.
And I think that what's happening is that Dan Weldon is rubbering in the high groove. I think he's thinking ahead, and you can see some other people taking his lead, that he's just getting that other groove run in. He'll need it later. He's the guy that likes to run high.
Elio's the other guy that we've seen who looks pretty happy up there as well.
As we take a look at our Firestone telemetry, you're not going to see much red there from the break. It's going to be mostly green. Down to Lindy Thaxton.
Mario Moraes, his engineer, told him beforehand the entire theme of the day is slow, slow, slow. He told him, you need to drive like you are 20 years older than you actually are, guys.
Wow. About that.
Well, basically that's it. Be patient, bring it home. We want to set ourselves up for the Indy 500.
Now, Marco Andretti is flying some different colors this week. Venom is on the side pods. It's a nice black with red trim. Very nice looking car. Venom energy drink, and right behind him is his Andretti Green Racing teammate Hideki Muto.
And he lost a spot just moments ago from Elio Castro Neves, so he is still continuing to struggle somewhat, is Andretti, but Castro Neves is on a move. Here's Kanaan on the outside of Rahal.
And this is the battle for second.
Now watch, see, Kanaan got a good shot at him, but didn't get the pass done. Woo, look at him working.
Woo, that was a lift and a slide. And
so now he'll draft back up on him. There's Graham right there. He's going to draft along him. He's going to just pull up to the high side. And also when he gets up to the high side there, it also gets him in clean air. You know, that's part of just when you get right behind somebody.
Look behind. He just lost some of that momentum. That gives Ryan Briscoe an opportunity to close in. As soon as one person lifts, it changes that momentum, and someone comes in for the kill.
What that does is that keeps Tony honest. That's the honest policy back there.
Down to Jack Arud in pit central.
Well, actually, I'm back in the garage area because Vitor Mira is trying to get the ABC Supply AJ Foyt special back in the race. Vitor, have you got an idea of what actually happened?
I know very well what happened. I mean, ovals, the rule is you enter high, you stay high, you exit high. Several times, every driver's meeting, Barnhart comes and say, well, Hideki entered high and came low, where I was. Because of that, I had Matos on the outside of me. I had to back off inside. Carson Evans came and hit at me. I mean, I think if there was 15 laps to go, I would understand, but not with 15 laps into the race. It wasn't necessary at all.
Let me ask you about the conditions out there. We've talked about the wind, and now that there's a full complement of cars out there, what's it like?
It's hard. I mean, the wind is too strong. I mean, I think it's very, very, everybody's having a lot of trouble out there, but I mean, we're doing good. We're climbed back to top 10, and we're trying to sort things, and I mean, unfortunate for the ABC car.
Guys, one of the things you'll hear drivers talk about all the time is not only do you have to be patient, but you have to be consistent.
Well, what we saw there with Vitor, obviously frustration, but everybody in that combination, 3-4, they've been using a lot of the track. You stay high to enter and you come down to an apex, and then the car's washing up. So nobody intentionally that, you know, didn't come across the front of him, but when it did is he had a lift, and there you go.
Now, we've been talking about Weldon, or at least I had mentioned I thought he was rubbering in the high groove. Watch what happens here. He's high and hee-hee.
A moment.
Yeah, there's 2 grooves out there, not 2.5, and he had to lift. But look what happens. When you lose that momentum, Mario Moraes goes by on the left, and I believe that Ed Carpenter, sure enough, takes advantage on the right. As soon as you lose that, they come right back after you.
Well, I've learned more about Weldon is when he gets a moment like that, most of us all are like, wow, we gotta pack it in. Weldon will keep coming at it. He's got a high tolerance for driving a car that gets that loose.
Weldon and Carpenter are battling for 6th position, and E.J. Viso has gearbox problems. And we will take a break and be back with more of the Kansas IndyCar 300 on Versus. And up front, in fact, in 2nd position, Tony Kanaan has taken over 2nd from Graham Rahal. You're watching the Roadrunner Turbo Indy 300 from Kansas Speedway. And there is now the battle for 3rd position. Graham Rahal in 3rd, and Ryan Briscoe has another rocket ship that he's riding in 4th.
Remember how we talked about in the open of the show that if the balance of the car isn't right, you'll start to wear the tires and then lose the balance. It certainly appears as though Rahal is now starting to struggle and getting in the clutches of both Kanaan and now Briscoe.
While all this is going on, Scott Dixon has the lead as we continue to watch this battle for 3rd position off corner 2 down the backstretch.
There he's running right up on, got a good run. Now he's just looking to the high side. Falls back just a little bit there with run up on the high side.
Your car has to really be good to try and make the moves high in turn 3. Again, with the wind direction, it tends to pin the front of the car in 1 and 2, and then tends to make the back of the car step out and whole car push up as you get into 3 and 4. Jack?
All right, guys, I'm kind of trying to look at who has the decided advantage. Scott Dixon right now is making excellent fuel mileage. As you ride on board, the magic number normally is about 3.2. When I checked with Mike Hall, they're not at full, Rich. They're making between 3.4 and 3.5. Wiley's out front. Meanwhile, remember that Tim Cindric called in Elio after the nose exchange to top off? He has 2 additional laps that he can use to his advantage. From a fuel consumption standpoint, it remains to be seen, and I'm going to check with Tim Cindric as to whether they're conserving fuel as well. Those are the 2 best cars in terms of strategy right now in the race to the end of the Kansas 150. After that, when we get a racing official, all bets are off, guys.
And Scott Dixon is lapping Robert Dornbos, who had it going there for a while just after the race started, but has fallen back into 18th position and is now a lap down.
he's getting an education quickly, finding out that just if you have a car fast for 4 laps, but you know what, that was really bad luck for him to catch that tire and have to go to the back.
Going back to his win in Nashville in 2007, Scott Dixon has now led 14 of his last 16 oval track races. In 6 of those, he has led more than 100 laps. And boy, this battle for third rages on. That's right. Ryan Briscoe in the Team Penske car, and Graham Rahal in the McDonald's-sponsored car.
And as they both are coming up on Dornbos, this may be an opportunity for Briscoe. Sometimes when you're back for that third man back, it's like, okay, how do I work this to my advantage so I can get a better run up on Graham? Not going to happen with that right now.
And Justin Wilson makes the stops in the Z-Line car for Dale Coyne Racing. And there is Briscoe putting Dornbos a lap down. And Justin Wilson peels out of the pit area. We expect wholesale pit stops very, very shortly. So we're going to take a break and be right back. Scott Dixon is leading after 65 of 200 laps. The Kansas Indycar 300 on Versus. We are back at the Kansas Indycar 300 on Versus. You saw on nonstop some of the pit action. And here comes Scott Dixon. He drops the car to the apron of the racetrack and heads for pit lane.
And Bob, this is significant because he went longer than anyone else while leading. So he was not picking up a draft and even went farther. You heard Jack Arute say, good mileage, and he's fast.
60 miles an hour on the speed limit. Lindy Thaxton.
Mike Hall, who calls the shots for Scott Dixon, says the wind is nobody's friend out here right now, but my driver is not complaining about it one bit. Scott Dixon saying the car feels really good. Mike Hall told Dixon, you're at a really good pace, keep it up, and there he goes.
And Elio Castro-Neves led this race for a lap, and now he drops to the apron.
Well, get this. He hit it 2 laps later. You heard Jack say about how they topped off on fuel, and Dixon almost went as long as Castro-Neves. That's fantastic fuel economy.
Robbie Floyd, he's headed toward you on pit lane.
Getting ready for Elio Castro-Neves to pit in. You're exactly right, guys. That mishap might have helped him out a little bit, gave him a little extra time to put a little more fuel in it a little bit later. And he actually came in that last time to check and make sure any arms were not bent, any problems, anything loose. So you know they're going for full fuel. Also throwing on a new set of Firestones. Now nothing wrong, not one adjustment for Castro-Neves.
7.2 seconds, and he is back in the race.
And Elio, this is a green stop run. We haven't seen much of that. As soon as you hit that line, you want to run as hard as you can. And an out lap on cold tires, Elio is as good as anybody.
And you could see the difference between where they came out, Dixon and Castro-Neves. This is where you earn your money. Go out on sticker tires on a cool day, at least a cool track temperature, on a windy day, and getting up to speed quickly is really tricky.
Scott Dixon has the lead once again. Well, we talk about close racing. Wait till we get to the Indianapolis 500. It is just around the corner, and the Indy 500 returns to ABC. Defending champion Scott Dixon leads a field that includes 4 former 500 winners: Elio, Weldon, Franchitti, and Dixon. The 93rd running of the 500. Sunday, May 24th at noon Eastern on ABC. And the list of potential starters in that race goes up every day. We're going to be in the high 30s, if not a little bit beyond that, of cars and drivers trying to get into the 33-car starting lineup.
10 days from today, we'll be on track.
That's right.
Getting busy.
Boy, do we have qualifying covered on Versus with 6.5 hours all 4 days.
So talking about Dixon, Jack said, you know, the car's fine, didn't need any changes. You know, Dixon has a great ability to just drive a very free or nervous car. Like I said, this morning when he was out on a setup that Franchitti was, he said the car was all over the place, but it was fast. And there's some drivers that, you know, they can hold on to a car for a couple laps like that, Jan, but he can bring it home all day long as long as it's faster. And that's a special ability.
And the reason I picked him to win is because he has that level of patience. But what he likes to do, and he has great support with Emma and his mother down on pit road, is that he likes to start a car with some push. Yes, he can drive it loose, but he likes to start traditionally a car with push, and gradually as the race goes on, takes and tunes it out slowly.
Yeah, and when you talk about push, what we're talking about there, push or understeer, the feel it gives the driver is the front of the car's leading. If you always know where the front's going, that is something you can control. When a car's loose and the rear starts snapping on you, that's a harder thing to control. So that's why a little bit of push is good.
We're 24 laps, Jack, away from an official race. What's the weather look like?
Well, the weather is starting to look very reminiscent to what happened in Nashville last year. Take a look at my little radar screen here. We've started to have bands come in to about 20 miles away from the racetrack. Forget about all this bad weather up here. This is what you've got to be concerned about because of the way the winds are going. Now, at Nashville, it was the same thing. Scott Dixon and Tony Kanaan were battling for the lead, and a caution came out. Dixon pulled under the pits at the last minute, and he was able to come back out, and he won the race under the yellow flag with a downpour.
We will keep our fingers crossed that it does not rain. Here is Ed Carpenter, who is running in 6th position. Very good run for the guy who, of course, struggled the last 2 races on the street courses, but when you get it on an oval, he's very competitive.
And a big addition to that team, Vision Racing, is having Ryan Hunter-Reay join in them at the last minute was a big help to that whole team and information they were gathering at those first 2 races. But, you know, right now, this race is important because it leads up to the Indy 500, and that's what that team's thinking about. That's what Ed Carpenter's thinking about, is I want to get out of here, I want to learn, I want to gain momentum. Worry about Indy.
Lindy, Ed is 6th at about 11 seconds behind Dixon.
And Ed is complaining about understeer and specifically turns 3 and 4. He also says overall the grip of the car is very, very loose for him right now.
Behind him in 7th position is Dario Franchitti, one of those who has driven from the back of the field. That is Stanton Barrett in between Ed and Dario. But there's Franchitti carrying the Nicorette colors this week on that Target Chip Ganassi car. Takes to the high side of Stanton Barrett.
You know, when we were talking about Dario and his approach with having to start from the back, we thought he was going to be way aggressive charging his way up to the front, and surprisingly that didn't really play out that way. Maybe not 100% happy with the balance of his car, Jan.
He's had a pit stop, so there's always a chance they've had an opportunity to change that.
Advantage is about 3.4 seconds on Kanaan running in 2nd position.
Now on an in-lap for Dixon, 2:02, but look at that out-lap, 2:06.9, and Kanaan did the opposite. He had a fast in-lap, but then struggled on the out-lap on the cold tires. And then Briscoe took it easy, but the car probably was going off on the in-lap and then really stood on it on those sticker tires.
Again, and when you say sticker tires, cold tires, it's not just the fact that they're cold, it's those tires need to build tire pressure. So when you don't have any pressure that's built up in them, or the optimum operating pressure, the car even weaves around a little bit more on top of not having temperature and grip. Jack, you got more?
Yeah, keep in mind when you look at that graphic, the in-lap for Scott Dixon at 202 miles an hour. Well, the reason he has to back out a little sooner because he's all the way at the end of pit road at pit in. Remember, he hasn't done well in the first 2 races.
Scott Dixon last year won on the ovals at Homestead, Indy, Texas, Nashville, and Kentucky, and he leads here at Kansas with 85 of 200 laps completed. Started at the rear of the field. He was involved in an accident. He's still running in 5th position, a little more than 10 seconds behind the leader. Scott Dixon continues to lead with about a 3.5 second advantage over Tony Kanaan, Ryan Briscoe, Graham Rahal, and Elio Castro-Neves. '16 career wins in IndyCar racing. And he is looking very, very good here in the first half of this race today. Taking the low side over Milka Duno, who was in her first race of 2009 in the Dreyer and Reinbold car and will be there for Indianapolis. And now the battle is for 2nd position as Ryan Briscoe is on the high side of Tony Kanaan once again. By the way, Tony Kanaan is making his 100th consecutive IndyCar Series start, the leader among active drivers.
And Briscoe has set the fastest lap of anybody so far in the race. Again, it's all pretty tight, but it still is the fastest lap that he set back, and he is clear on Tony.
Yep, taking second spot.
No, exactly. I was just going to say, the spotter can say clear, come down, but he just snuck back there. Now he's got it done. Now, does Tony's car work well enough when he's behind Briscoe that he can suck up back on there and get a draft?
Milk and donut, next car.
And that's just what you were talking about earlier on, Robbie. You want your spotter to tell you what's going to happen next, not necessarily what you can see off the nose of the car. And that was the next car after he's cleared Tony Kanaan is Milkaduno.
Good. The spotter's job is to provide good information. Remember, sometimes we all get caught up. The spotter is not driving the car. They're just providing the information and the tools. So there's Milka off to the left right there, on board with Tony. Tony's hands on his wheel look pretty good up there when he gets high. The car looks pretty darn comfortable.
In 6 previous starts here at Kansas, Tony has finished out of the top 10 only once. In 2007, he was in 15th, and we have a caution. That's Rafael Matos, who has had contact with the wall, it would appear. Maybe not very much, but it's enough to bring out the caution.
Well, you could see his suspension. Look at the little bow in the suspension there. So definitely ding the wall somewhere enough to take that suspension. And that will be, he'll be able to bring it home to the pit lane, but that will end his day. Being told he white-walled it in turn 4.
He was running in 13th position, by the way, in the U.S. Air Force car for Lusso Dragon Racing.
Ron Marias looking back at, look at the wiggle, chasing it.
Oh, yeah.
That's called chasing it up the track. Wiggle, chase it up the track.
From another angle, just brushes the safer barrier, but enough to do some rather significant damage.
I don't think I put that in the brush category.
That was a hit, huh?
That's a hit for me. That's a hit.
Right. He has made it to his pit box, and now they assess the damage and see if they can get things repaired for him to go back out. And in any case, we are under caution with 97 laps completed.
Now, what's interesting when we're looking here, let's pause it right here if we have the opportunity. Here is where the wash, the aerodynamic wash, comes off the back of the car. So now let it run, and you can see he gets into the wash, and now he's starting to lose that front grip. And when he does, he gets the wiggle, and as soon as you get off where the track is not grippy, kablamo.
And literally what I said, he does chase it up the track. Once the rear breaks loose, you're trying to catch up with the car. You're trying to catch up with the rear with the steering wheel, and he ran out of track to catch it up with before the wall got there.
Ran out of racetrack. It's happened before in racing, hasn't it?
It just is the subtlest of wiggles that can set you up. I mean, at these speeds, we've talked about the wind. We're not doing the wind any justice for how bad the conditions are down there, but it's all so subtle, so minute that can send that stuff off.
Tony Kanaan's crew waits on him to arrive on pit lane for pit stop, and Scott Dixon's crew is ready.
Now this will be fun. Everyone coming onto pit road, I would assume, and also Jack had mentioned that because of championship owner points, Scott Dixon is pitting early. That makes it tough. You really want to be at pit out. That's the preferred spot where Dario has.
Here they come down off the 15-degree banking.
And just because it's yellow, now these guys got to go with a different race mode. Hit your marks. Don't give up anything. Hold your brakes for your guys. You know, he comes in. Okay, hold your brakes, Scott. Let the guys change the tires.
Now watch, Scott Dixon will probably be just about finished by the time we see Kanaan, sure enough, come to a stop, and that's because of pit position. Briscoe comes in. He's nearly pit out.
And Kanaan's going to have him. Go, go, go. Remember, 60-mile-an-hour pit lane?
Briscoe,
Ryan
Kanaan, and then Dixon.
Yep, he's going to be the leader. All right, Well, we are very, very close to the halfway point. One more lap, and we'll be at halfway in the Kansas IndyCar 300 on Versus. Stay with us. Back in a moment.
Welcome back to IndyCar on Versus from the Kansas Speedway. Well, the Kansas 150 is over. Now we can look at the Kansas 300 as we get ready to go back to green. Now you have to shift all of your strategy. Forget about the rain. The rain has stayed away, but if it comes now, the race is official. So the whole key for all the teams that are out there is be in the lead pack, pit whenever the leaders pit, make as much fuel, and then keep an eye on the radar, but it's not as important as it once was, fellas, once the race is official.
And that's right, Jack. I mean, the whole focus now is you want to get to the lead pack. Be up in that lead pack, and when that lead pack comes in for their last stop, you do that with them, and then you get down to racing. You know, hopefully at that point too, you've communicated to your engineer that, hey, give me a pound of pressure here, take away a pound, so your car is as fast as it can be that last 40 laps.
Hideki Muto will go to the end of the line because he ran over a hose on pit lane. So did Milka Duno. Pace car is still out there. It's going to be Briscoe and Kanaan running in first and second, then Dixon, Castro Neves, and Franchitti. So the guys who started at the rear of the field weren't there very long. Elio fourth and Dario in fifth position. Ryan Briscoe, prior to his 7th place finish here last year, his best result on an oval had been 8th at Nashville in 2005. He did win at Milwaukee last year. Also finished 3rd at Chicagoland and Texas, and 7th at Kentucky and Iowa.
And Bob, interesting, when you have everyone pit at the same time, to look at the 3 women, of course, that are taking part today, you can make a change to this car, Robbie, without having to take the time to do the front wings just by tire pressure. So when you saw everyone come in and make really quick stops to try and get track position, if they make a change on tire pressure, for every 1 pound of tire pressure, it's like changing a spring rate by 50 pounds. So we cannot visually see that they made a change, but these cars could now be different after that pit stop.
Robbie Floyd, excellent work again by Team Penske to get Ryan out.
Yeah, it definitely was, guys. He came in the pits in second, he come out in first, and you see the whole pit crews here watching how they did that pit stop. That when you've got the money, use all expenses on what makes up the ground the quickest, and it was a pit stop in this case. They're watching how their pit stop went down. Obviously, it was the best one out there to come out in front. And one thing to mention, they don't know if it came from Roger Penske or Ryan Briscoe, but somebody on the radio, when he took out of the pits, said, that's where we belong, in front.
Well, Robbie, that's what you do after an on-camera, right? You run back and see the replay, see how you did.
Yeah, that's awesome. And Team Penske, not just for Briscoe, but Castro Neves, both those guys gained a spot.
I hear them getting spooled up.
Yep, the noise means they're going back green. Danica Patrick running in 8th position. Ed Carpenter is 7th. Some of the spotters working the backstretch.
Danica's father there in the middle of turn 1 and 2 on a stand.
And the green comes out, and already Scott Dixon has second from Tony.
And look at Dario right there in the blue and white car on the outside of your screen. Says, boys, I'm coming to the... Oh, he's getting up high.
He got a little too high. He's going to lose momentum. Ed Carpenter in the bright yellow Menards entry is going to try and go 3 wide, and on the bottom, Graham Rahal.
Wow, visually you could just see it. We both saw it at the same time. Dario just got a little high up into the green. He had to just crack a little bit, but he didn't lose anything. I mean, he's coming right back at it.
And Danica's coming back at Dario. Danica's car looks better. I think the Graham Rahal's car also looks better after that pit stop. On the left side, Tony Kanaan.
Yeah, let's not judge that pit stop yet. Give them a couple more laps. They're still building that tire pressure, getting that temperature, and just seeing what other changes they have.
Look at that. Up the inside, Graham Rahal took it to the inside. I think his car's he's feeling more racy now, and I think he was in trouble before that last pit stop.
Timing of the pass. Size up your competition. Strengths and weaknesses. Where am I good? Where am I bad?
I like this because there were some people that were definitely struggling, and new tires help. By the way, Firestone has brought a new tire to this racetrack this year that all the drivers, I would say, unanimously think is better. It has more grip and better durability. Last year, after 15 laps, they were out there trying to save their life. And boy, on a windy day, you're so much happier to have a little more tire grip.
Yes, and as a race driver, what you want Firestone to tell you they've come with when they come with a new tire is more grip and better endurance. That's it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, don't need to know anymore. Thanks. I'm going to be a little faster.
Our GoDaddy biggest movers, Castro Neves from 21st to 4th. Dario, as we mentioned, also has moved through the field. Briscoe from 7th to 1st. GoDaddy.com, or you can make the web your domain with a .com name for less than $1 a month.
You know, when I talked to Danica earlier, we talked about getting up in that second groove, how hard it is, and no driver really liked going up there. Danica said, even when I just, in my mind, I'm running on the low groove and I'm thinking that I want to get to the high side, oh, the car doesn't like it, just when she's thinking about it. So that tells you.
A lot of spotter chatter. And I think that Castro Neves is struggling just by the way he's working the car. It doesn't look like he has the same kind of grip, the same kind of performance that he had. Either that or those around him have all improved.
Hey, fellas, as we watch a lot of that slice and dice, you know what happens? We say that this racetrack's flat out, but in essence, you do have to lift the throttle a little bit. All the drivers talk about the egg on the pedal theory. Now, I brought out an egg here, and imagine, if you will, that this is the gas pedal, and that's your foot. Well, when you get out of the throttle, you don't want to stab out of it. What you want to do is pretend like you've got an egg right here like this, and you want to just apply the pressure and be nice and easy. Because if you go the other way and you panic, you go, we're going to have
I figured it was hard-boiled, but maybe
that's
not.
Good. You think? Well, no, that's right. You never want the throttle to be an on-off switch.
I was wondering if he would do that, and by golly, he did. You won't miss a thing on nonstop. It's Briscoe, Dixon, Kanaan, Castro Neves, and Graham Rahal at the Kansas IndyCar 300 on Versus.
At TireRack.com.
Elio runs wide open at Indianapolis during the race and during qualifying, and we look forward to our coverage of the activity in Indianapolis this year. Elio with 14 wins in his IndyCar career, 115 starts and 26 pole positions. He is first in that category. Right now, he is all over the rear wing of Tony Kanaan, trying to get third away from TK.
And we just heard from pit lane, got a little report, is Elio's car is pretty neutral, a little loose. So the reason we're seeing him on the high side of the racetrack is that's where his car's a little more comfortable. When you run up top there, you actually don't even have, ooh, look at that. There's got a big run on TK.
Car high.
He is on the outside of him.
Car high. That was, of course,
Clear.
Kanaan's radio, and that's what you're talking about. He won't know if he's clear until you hear that from the spotter. That's great info.
And there we, again, look at Elio. He's staying up on the high side of the racetrack, and when you're on the high side of the racetrack, he didn't have to put as much steering input into the wheel as he rolled into the corner since he's so neutral. Look at the speeds.
205 at his lowest point in the corner, now up to 207, and that, of course, will increase as he goes down the backstretch. Ed Carpenter is 7th, and Dario Franchitti is 8th. As I said earlier, Ed struggled on the two road course races that we had, but he is very, very racy here and will be at all ovals this year.
Yeah, that's a big part of the focus of Ed and that team is everything they can do on the ovals and the speedway, and Dario working the high side on him.
And when people go high, I'm sure you've noticed as well, Robbie, you start getting the sparks back. And that's because the track is bumpier the higher that you go. So not only do you have a little less grip on the high side, it's bumpier. Danica Patrick was saying after practice that was the big issue. She tried to go high, the car started hopping around. And that obviously is pretty apparent when you start seeing those sparks.
There is Tony George, the owner of Vision Racing, for whom Ed Carpenter runs. He will be at his own facility in Indianapolis for the next month. All the big activity during the month of May in Indiana's capital city. Mario Moraes and Marco Andretti battle for 10th position.
last time we had this view, we saw somebody get a big wiggle. So we're hoping that Marco, and see, he gave him more space.
And right in the same place, you see the tire marks on the wall. Wow.
So Marco knows that if he gets much closer than this, he starts to lose some of the air we had drawn earlier, sort of where that aerodynamic wash comes off the back of the car. And so discretion is the better part of valor here. But now he's thinking, okay, where can I set Mario up? Where can I close in and make the move?
And you know what's happened, though, Jan, also, is I've been tracking the wind down here. It started, it was averaging about 25 miles an hour. We've just tracked it for the last 10 minutes, and the average has dropped to 16 miles an hour. So that's a considerable drop. I think that's why you're seeing guys maybe venture to the high side a little more with maybe a little less trepidation.
Well, if you take 10 miles an hour wind out of that's going to make you feel a little bit better, a little more confident. But like we said, when we're looking back there at Marco, you said he's got to get closer there and just has to, you know, figure out where the strengths and weaknesses is of Mario and figures, hey, I can get you off of 2. I can get you off of 4. Where is he stronger?
Meanwhile, TK and Elio are very close together on the racetrack, running 3rd and 4th. And again, he gets a good run off the corner.
And we've seen him get that a couple times, but he just can't get the pass done. Once he gets into the corner right there, you know, I think it just shows you how good TK's car is turning on the bottom. You know, his car, even though he's running a little tighter line down there, it's a short distance, but the car's turning and really shooting him off the corner pretty well.
Tony Kanaan won this race in 2005, was second to Dan Weldon last year.
Another good run, looks to the top side again.
70 laps to go in this one. Briscoe and Scott Dixon running 1st and 2nd, and here is 3rd and 4th. And there's Graham Rahal coming into the picture. He's running in 5th spot. Once again, Elio Castro-Neves trying to get that position away from the car ahead of him. We'll be right back. Back to the Roadrunner Turbo Indy 300 from Kansas Speedway, the first oval track race of the 2009 season. Right now, it's Ryan Briscoe showing the way for Team Penske. Scott Dixon 2nd, Castro-Neves 3rd, Kanaan and Graham Rahal the top 5.
And it started off right away with a bang. Castro-Neves, all of a sudden things stop in front because Vitor Mira had the limp, made contact. Amazing, this wasn't bigger. Unfortunately, a fairly big hit for Vitor Mira, but Castro-Neves was able to get on pit road and get a new nose. His teammate, however, Ryan Briscoe, wheel to wheel with Tony Kanaan and takes 2nd place away. The wash behind, that's Rafael Matos. Tries to hang on to it, but rubs the wall. Nice job of not doing more damage, but it goes to show what happens out on a bumpy racetrack. Ryan Briscoe with fantastic pit work, but it didn't take long for Scott Dixon, as soon as the green came out, to whip his way past Tony Kanaan to get him up behind Briscoe. Moments ago, Castro-Neves, and look how he picked up the side draft, side by side, gets that position away from Tony Kanaan.
If you are just joining us, welcome to Kansas Speedway. We are at lap 138, and the leader is Ryan Briscoe. Threatening weather all weekend here. It rained very, very hard last evening. In fact, there were a couple of tornado touchdowns just north of the racetrack that destroyed some buildings, but the race so far today has been all okay, let's put it that way, despite the fact that we have winds gusting up to 35 miles an hour. Marco Andretti and Mario Moraes are 10th and 11th. And here is the battle for 6th. Danica in number 7 and Dario Franchitti in number 10.
They get a little slower traffic right in front of him. Is this going to set something up for Dario back there to just take advantage of that? That's Stan Barrett, yep, in the blue and white car there.
And he has been staying in the middle of the racetrack. racetrack, so that means that Dario will have to stay low in this case. Oh, but he wasn't able to clear him. Now that was definitely advantage Danica. That's the way you use traffic to get a gap. Her dad looking on from the inside saying, no, that'll work.
Danica Patrick, just a little more than a year ago. Officially a year ago last Monday, she recorded her first victory in the IndyCar Series on the oval at Twin Ring Motegi in Japan.
And we don't even see Dario in the screen right now. I mean, that's how much momentum he lost in that.
Battle for 8th position. Dan Weldon on top of Ed Carpenter.
This looks like a replay from what we saw earlier. These two,
they've been together almost all race, haven't they?
Well, he's caught back up to him. For a while there, they were separated. And Dan likes to run high, as you talked about earlier, Robbie. But it doesn't seem as though when he is high, he can save that momentum.
Dan Weldon in the National Guard car this year for Team Penske, for Team Panther. There is Graham Rahal and Patrick.
Danica is right there now. That'd be for 5th.
Yep.
That is, yeah. And Dario still trying to get, he was right just trying to challenge with Danica, and now he's still taking, 3-4 laps even to get that momentum and get back up there.
Now, right after the warm-up this morning, all of the Andretti Green drivers got together in a little huddle. It was all 4 of them, along with their engineers, and had a big powwow about how crazy it was out there in these windy conditions, and compared notes in a very animated fashion. And Danica was talking about how her car hopped when she got high, how it would hop, and thought the car was a little bit too soft. Hideki Muto was involved in the conversation. So was Michael Andretti. I think they've changed the team cars, and in her case, it's been a change definitely for the better.
Sarah Fisher, currently running in 15th position. She is the only driver in today's race who started in the very first race here at Kansas. This is Sarah's first outing for 2009. She, of course, will be at the Indianapolis 500 also, showing the colors of Dollar General on the side pods of that car. Down to Jack Arute.
All right, 55 laps, about 54 now remain. I'm checking the radar. The weather is closed in within 10 miles. But the top 4 positions, Briscoe, Dixon, Castroneves, and Kanaan, they're all making fuel. They're going to try and stretch this final pit stop so that they are able to take on less fuel on the stop if it comes under green. This is all starting to unfold as we wind it down. 146 of the 200 are completed here at Kansas. All the top 4 think it's going to go the distance, so you need to stay right where you are here on Versus.
Back at Kansas, and the IndyCar 300 on Versus. Got a good 3-car battle here for position. Graham Rahal, Dario Franchitti, and Danica Patrick 5th, 6th, and 7th. And here comes Ryan, the leader of the race.
And we also saw Graham Rahal. Oh, Dario in the wall.
Now let's see where Briscoe is with regards.
Oh, he's already in.
He's already committed, and he wasn't to the pit lane line, so he's probably going to have to do a drive-through and then come back in.
Our points leader heading into this event by virtue of his win last Sunday at Long Beach is in the wall, and Brian Briscoe will go on through the pits.
Good call. That was a good call, Robbie. They saw the yellow. They waved him through, not allowed to service the car.
And the rules there is we saw Briscoe already on the entrance to pit lane in 3. Then the incident happened, and if it went yellow when he got to the start or the timing line of the pit road, then you'd be okay. But since he was just outside that, bad luck, too bad.
Yeah, I mean,
you got to drive through. That's just bad luck.
Here's the thing, though. He had peeled off to pit way before Dario ever hit the wall. Thankfully, Dario looks like he's A-okay.
Yeah.
Obviously, we go into competition mode immediately thinking, okay, who's going to pit? But the great news is that Dario Franchitti is A-okay after a big hit.
He did take a big hit. Let's see what we can determine what happened here. Mentioned that he was in a 3-car battle.
So Graham does. Oh, he's going for the pits. pits. He's going for the pits and gets on the brakes and almost runs into the back of Rahal. Woohoo!
Was he going for the pits?
Yeah.
Or did he just think he was going to follow him down there and come back up? And just that transition, he's like, oh, no, I don't want to go to the pits.
I think he's going for the... Remember how we talked about in the whole weight jacker piece that when you get on the brakes and you're not on the banking? Yeah, it just locks it. See, he was going to slow behind Graham Rahal and said, I'm going to hit him. And he took avoiding action, and he took one into the wall instead of going into the back of Graham Rahal.
He was coming with a lot of speed. And you're right, though. If what we saw there is we saw that left front locked up. So obviously, when you got a lot of weight to the right or the left, you're going to lock up the light wheel. He's locked it up. But even before that, it looked like to me he was carrying too much speed to get slowed down.
Remember how we talked about how important in-laps and out-laps? That was Dario Franchitti really wanting to maximize. But now, let's go to the payday. Lindy?
Scott Dixon bringing in the number 9, getting tires and fuel. Mike Hull just told him over the radio, this is your last stop to get us home. As far as the car, everything. All right, down to Robbie.
And as we look for Scott Briscoe making his way into the pits, Roger Penske was upset. Ryan Briscoe was upset about it, that yellow coming out. I'm quite sure his first time to this track was back in 05. A broken clutch kept him with a chance at victory. But guys, that yellow might have hurt him today, or definitely hurt him today.
Yeah, that was tough. That was a nice quick stop, but of course he had peeled off. Before we saw Dario Franchitti come flying up behind and make that crash, Ryan Briscoe had already peeled off. So he had made his decision to pit. But like I said, Robbie, if you don't cross the line before the yellow comes on, it's just, sorry.
And pit in is in 3. That line is all the way at the exit of 4. And you just got to go around that warm-up lane. That's, when you're in that area on these super speedways, sorry, too bad, bad luck. Let's take one more look at it here.
It's also worth noting, remember, that they don't ever use the brakes when you're on the track at speed. So Graham Rahal slows and gets on the brakes, and look at this. A little bit later, Dario Franchitti gets on the brakes, and it just won't stop. And instead of just plowing into the back of Rahal, he turns right.
And that's what it is he pulled off. I'm going to go to the brake pedal last minute, went to the brakes hard, and instantly locked up that left front. As soon as he did that, the car almost even accelerates. Everything he wanted from stopping power wasn't there, and he just avoided hitting Graham.
It's also the first race of the year that they're using the carbon rotors and carbon pads. They take much longer to warm up than what they used on the road courses for the first 2 races. Robbie?
I'm here with Roger Penske. Roger, you were very upset up here on the pit box. What happened?
Well, we were already in the pits when they said went yellow, and then they said we couldn't work on the car. I've never seen anything like it in my life. And we were in the pits before it went yellow, so I think the officials got to take a good look at that. It might cost us the race.
It really has, sir. They beat you up just because that yellow come out, but not to make those changes doubly.
We didn't have any changes to make other than fuel and tires, and we'll be fine here, but it's a shame. He's driving a great race.
And again, what Roger's talking about, what we just heard, is right at that pit-in lane. Roger's saying we were inside of that.
Okay, well, our caution remains out. At the end of 155 laps, Scott Dixon has the lead once again at Kansas. Welcome back to IndyCar racing from Kansas here on Versus with 157 of 200 laps completed, and the field is getting sorted out for the restart. There's Tony George. The Indianapolis Motor Speedway, of course, is beginning its centennial celebration. It was his grandfather who saved the track after World War II. Izod presents 100 Years of Victory.
I would have to say, if it wouldn't have been for Mr. Holman buying the Speedway, the championship racing would not be what it is today.
He didn't spare any of the effort or the dollars in making the place as great as it is today.
Tony Holman was a magic man. He loved racing, and he did it from his heart, not for monetary reasons.
Tony Holman was one of those beautiful individuals that made you feel so much at home. There was a quality to this man that everybody loved him.
It was one simple man in Terre Haute, Indiana, who was the key to the success of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. His family is still there. His family, under his influence, obviously, all these years have been perfect owners of the track. and I commend them.
In this case, it's gentlemen and ladies, stand on your accelerators because we are back to racing at Kansas. 41 laps to go.
Everyone knows it's a sprint to the finish. You heard Jack say, and it confirms by the data, no need to stop on pit road for fuel. Now just stand on it.
And no conserving fuel. There's no leaning the car out. Everything you got right now.
Scott Dixon is your leader. Castro Neves, then Kanan, then Danica Patrick running back in 5th position.
And Danica back there in the 5th spot. She says, I want to stay in touch with that lead pack. I don't want to break away from that group. I need to be in this game right up here with these guys to have a shot at being at this podium.
And there, of course, is Ryan Briscoe running just ahead of her. So he really didn't lose very much in that pit situation.
And right now, what would be happening, we talked about spotters earlier, Danica's spotters will be getting with Briscoe saying, let's work together right now. Let's get up with those three. Let's not hold each other up. Let's team up. And then once we get there, we'll get to business.
Now, the reason that Roger Penske was upset is that if they could have left the pits in the lead, he would have had a car running in clean air. Now he has a car running in dirty air, and that's much more difficult for Ryan Briscoe.
Target Chip Ganassi Racing leads. Team Penske is in 2nd position. 4 AGR cars are in the top 8. So another good afternoon for Andretti Green Racing.
Yeah, and up at the top there with Dixon, Castro Neves, Kanan. Experience, experience, experience.
Hey guys, let me update you on your 3rd place car, Tony Kanan. He's been conserving fuel. I just talked to George Klotz. He says we've given him the green light to go full rich, and he says I think we can get within earshot of the lead tandem. He said, but the big problem is once we get there, what's going to happen to the car in dirty air?
And Jack, as you are saying that, Briscoe, who is in 4th spot, was having a good run and getting right into the mirrors of Tony Kanan. Well, there is the top 5. That is your pack. That, you know, we'll see if Marco, who's in 6th, can get in there, but that could be our breakaway pack. That's on board with Dixon. Looking back out at Castro Neves.
All right, now let's revisit this Briscoe situation here.
It's a split screen. Dario Franchitti slides, goes up, and smacks the wall, and there is the yellow line for pit road. The white one actually is where the transponder is. So Roger Penske was correct. They were on the way into the pits, but Robbie, you called it, hadn't hit the timing line. We're now in the electronic era that as soon as all the yellow lights go on, they have a data feed for when did the yellow light go on and when did he cross the transponder line. In this case, it's an electronic call saying, sorry, you didn't cross the line before we hit the button.
Very frustrating, and it was nobody's fault. You get into that little gray area and there's nothing you could do. You couldn't get back out on track, so you got to run through pit lane at 60 miles an hour and then come in when the pits are open.
And part of it is you're starting to make a pit stop thinking, okay, I want my clean air setup. And then all of a sudden you have to change and say, hang on a minute, I now need the dirty air setup. It's not working so well.
Well, the point standings are changing almost lap by lap. Of course, going into this event, Dario Franchitti had the points lead. He's out of the race. Right now, Tony Kanan is the points leader. But the race is far from over. There are the top 5, and they are within 1.5 seconds of each other. Stay with us. We'll be back for more of the Kansas IndyCar 300 on Versus. 27 laps to go in this 300-miler at Kansas. It's Dixon closely pursued by Helio Castro Neves, only 0.3 of a second behind. Then comes Kanan, Briscoe, and Danica Patrick.
And we all know it's important, Jan, to tune the car for for the last 40 laps of this race, or after your last stint. And I was just looking over at the board, and the last 10 laps, the top 5 guys have all set their fastest time. So they've tuned their cars, and they just, like I say, since that last pit stop, they have all laid down their fastest lap.
There's more rubber on the racetrack, and you're right, Robbie. They were running around 206 in the previous stint. Now all of a sudden we're seeing some 09s and occasional 210 as a fastest lap. And they have definitely, Scott Dixon picking up the pace, everyone else trying to follow.
Well, guys, remember, too, they were on that fuel conservation mode, and they just all the top 5 are given the green light. This is the first time we've seen what we call wide open racing with full rich since the drop of the green flag.
And Jack, have we had the wind die down anymore? Is that playing an issue out there?
Yeah, it's dropped down to an average over the last 10 minutes of just about 11 miles an hour, so it's dramatically better.
Dramatically from what we had at the green flag.
Let's give a shout out to the Formula Dream Machine driven by Hideki Muto as we watch Graham Rahal and Dan Weldon come up wheel to wheel. Just ahead of them is Hideki Muto.
And he, of course, had a penalty for clipping an air hose and has come back very strongly.
All the Andretti green cars looking very good today.
Woohoo! Weldon was high there, baby.
He's been there all day.
I know, but that was a little higher even than he wanted.
That's interesting statistic you gave there a while ago, Robbie, with the fastest laps. The exception is Marco Andretti, who's running in 6th, and his fastest lap of the race was on lap 23.
Well, and part of it is he's the 6th car back of that 5 group, so he's just not getting towed along.
The Indianapolis 500 returns to ABC. The defending champion is, of course, Scott Dixon, and he will be among the 4 former winners in the field: Elio, Dan Weldon, and Dario Franchitti besides Scott. The 93rd running of the greatest spectacle in racing, Sunday, May 24th at noon Eastern on ABC. And Buddy Lazier just recently got a ride with Himmelgarn Racing, so we can put his name into the former winners category. Like I say, it seems like that new car driver combinations are happening almost every day.
Can't wait.
Yeah, me either. There's Stanton Barrett, and Stanton is in his very first oval track race in an Indycar. He, of course, has a lot of experience in the stock cars, but this is his first on an oval in the IndyCar series, and he's running in 17th position.
And his job right now is just learn about the car, bring it home in one piece. Let's roll to the month of May, massage that car, and say, hey, we learned a lot here. We're going to keep learning as we get on track on Wednesday from the beginning of May there.
There's Hideki and Graham Rahal. This will be the battle for 7th. Graham's car washes out just a little bit coming off the corner.
He will be one of the drivers who will be very pleased with the fact that the wind speed has died down. We heard earlier in the pre-race show, he said it was as treacherous as anything he's ever done, including driving in the rain, driving in all kinds of tough conditions. And yeah, you know, in his long, storied career of all the things that he's done, this is this is top of the list.
And when we just saw his car wash up that one time, I mean, part of why he let the car go up there and you didn't see him drop back or come off the throttle is because we don't have as much wind hitting you in the side of the car there as he's coming off of turn 4.
Just a little more than 16 laps to go.
He's going to get
Stanton Barrett's going to play a factor here.
Going to get boxed out. Get boxed out.
No, he's going to stay there.
Oh, they go 3 wide into turn 1.
And he's got the momentum. He's got the momentum. And Hideki says, I'm not coming off that gas.
Wheel to wheel down the backstretch.
And he's going to have to keep working for it right now because Hideki will be good on the low side. It's not done.
Yeah, And that's nice. Graham Rahal, the one who didn't like to be high in 4, didn't like the wind, has got it done.
There's a time to bring your A game.
15 laps to go in this Kansas IndyCar 300 on Versus. We'll take our final break and be back for the finish on Versus. Scott Dixon, we look back to second place Elio Castroneves. 0.6 of a second is the interval. Here are the margins of victory in 5 races here at Kansas. Eddie Cheever with 0.19 of a second. And look at the Buddy Rice victory. 5 1,000ths of a second.
And that was when Vitor went to the bottom side of the racetrack in 04 there, and I think finished 3rd. There was 3 of them, and I think Vitor ended up 3rd and dove right down to the bottom side of the track.
So Scott Dixon is trying to break a different kind of record. He's trying to go for the largest margin of victory, and he looks very much at the moment as though he has this thing in hand.
And the approach for a driver right now is if they could catch Dixon, they would get up there and start mixing it up right now. But everybody's just kind of holding steady state. If Elio had something right now, he would get right behind Dixon and start just figuring out where the strengths are there. But he just can't get there.
Dan Weldon will not get the 3P today here at Kansas. He's won the last 2 years, but although he has run well in the National Guard car, he is running in the 10th position. And that's Ed Carpenter just ahead, and I swear those guys have been together on the racetrack for just about all race long. By the way, Dan is in his 100th start. Tony Kanaan making his 100th consecutive start.
And you mentioned Carpenter, and of course, my colleague here, Mr. Buell, picks him as being the top non-winner and picking Dixon for the win. So at the moment, Mr. Buell, you are looking good.
Jan, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Robert Dornbos, who many of you picked to be the best among the non-winners, is running in 12th position, and my Sarah Fisher is 13th.
Yeah, and remember, Dornbos had to come in. You know, he kind of lost the mojo there when he got penalized and hit that tire.
Now, we think that Scott Dixon's got it in the bag. The family looks pretty relaxed.
Yeah. Not over till it's over.
Oh, yeah.
It is just absolutely amazing that it did not rain. I mean, last night, the thunderstorms that we had and the forecast was for more the same today. We're thinking, oh boy, but it didn't rain, and we're going to get this whole thing in. And Marco Andretti and Danica Patrick, teammates for Andretti Green Racing, are racing for 5th spot.
And we didn't think, oh, Marco just had a big wiggle. He's getting there feeling confident, closing in behind. Obviously, when he got close there, it just changed the aero package on his car, and he had the big lift. Look at him. He was right there with the run. You dump the throttle, and he lost all the momentum. That was a big wiggle.
Yep.
Marco running 6th, but he's well ahead of 7th place Graham Rahal.
Now, Tony Kanaan told me that Marco Andretti does not like a car loose. He does not like when it steps out, whereas Tony Kanaan can deal with that to some degree. He says that Marco likes a bit of push, and that was anything but push. So if you don't like that, that was not a good day.
Nobody likes that.
Well, Weldon's okay. Some guys like to drive it off the right rear tire.
We've talked about it all weekend. Scott Dixon is the Oval Meister. First 2 races of 2009 have not been good. 16th at St. Pete, 15th at Long Beach. But he is within 1 lap of victory here this afternoon. Scott Dixon wants to come to Indy with momentum, and it appears as if he is going to do so for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. He's on the bottom of the racetrack looking toward the checkered flag, and Scott Dixon wins his 17th race in his IndyCar career, second behind Sam Hornish in victories. His 11th win on an oval. Elio is second, then Kanaan, Briscoe, and Patrick. Here's Lindy Thaxton.
And Emma, is there almost just a sense of awe, finally?
It is. We've had a bit of a poo start to the season, so it's nice to get suddenly, you know, have a win under our belt, and now we can just plow on for the rest of the season. I'm so glad he wants to He's been grumpy for 3 weeks, so hooray.
Go celebrate. Obviously, great moment.
So grumpy Scott Dixon will not be so grumpy here in Victory Lane, I'm sure.
But the interesting thing is he loves street and road courses. It just didn't pay this year.
Yep. And it's the 5th year in a row that Scott Dixon has won at least one win in the IndyCar Series. To Victory Lane when we come back on Versus. The race is over at Kansas, and Izod salutes a winning performance with Izod Victory Lane. We go down to Jack Arute.
Well, he was grumpy for the last 3 weeks, but he's not grumpy anymore. Scott Dixon, victorious in the Kansas Indy 300. Scott takes the congratulations of his crew. Scott, come on over here. Now, your wife, Emma, said that for the last 3 weeks, you've been Mr. Grumpy.
Well, of course I was grumpy. I wasn't winning, so it was a tough deal. But you know, you got to hand it to the Target guys this weekend. They've done a fantastic job. We made a few changes to the car, and we trimmed it out, and we were trimmed to win today, and it definitely worked.
You have an incredible capacity for making fuel and being able to, and it looked to me like in the first half of the race, that's exactly what you were doing. Not certain whether this was going to go the distance, but then when Mike Hull let loose of the bridle, as they say, you just killed him.
We had to, you know, we had to save fuel. Last year we lost that race by, you know, burning too much fuel. So it looks like the same thing happened to Briscoe this weekend, which is unfortunate. But we'll take it, man. We've had 2 rough weekends, and I'm just happy for these Target boys that have done such a fantastic job.
You know, you gained 13 spots in the points chase. You've now catapulted to 4th going in to defend your Indy 500 championship.
That sounds a lot better than 17th or 18th, man. But no, a lot of thanks to all these guys that have done the job, and Target, obviously. Thank you.
Hey, guys, one thing I should point out, while Dan Weldon didn't score the 3-peat, it is a 3-peat for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. This time it's just Dixon instead of Weldon.
And the salute, of course, is to the winner, but you've also got to take your hat off to the other guys who work sort of behind the scenes, out on pit lane, and the engineer. And here is the winning team for Target Chip Ganassi Racing. Great job, guys. Scott Dixon drives to Victory Lane here in Kansas, and we'll be back with more post-race in a moment. Scott Dixon and wife Emma in Victory Lane with a lot of hugs and congratulations. Scott wins here at Kansas, finishing 2nd. Elio Castroneves. Here's Robbie Floyd.
Elio, you tied your best, finished 2003, you finished 2nd here. Could your car have won if you were ever out in front and get that clean air?
Let me tell you one thing, it was so close. I think the top 4, top 5 probably had a winner car. You know, it looks like whoever got in front, it would be in a good shape. I was trying to work a little bit the high line, and unfortunately I found out just towards the end because I didn't want to push. The wind was really strong. And again, I mean, 2nd is great. So
you started at a deficit in the back because of the officials made that decision. But what happened with Vitor Meira? We have it on the screen here if you could talk through it.
I tell you, I had no idea it was coming up. I actually was take it easy, trying to make sure that nothing happened. And I was looking to Rafael Matos, and he was kind of moving around. All of a sudden, it was just like, hey, I just saw his rear wing right in front of me. And my only concern was like, hold it, don't spin, don't crash, you know. It was really suddenly. So, and as soon as that oversteer, I'm like, okay, come back. Do I have a front wing? Do I don't have a front? I know I saw a lot of things flying, but and then we were having a little issue with the temperature. But one of those things, when you're running close like that, it's hard for you to make prediction.
Nobody even said anything about temperature to me out there on the pits. Everything went well for you considering all that happened there. Lindy Thaxton?
Tony, talk about the conditions out there because you say downforce really cost you there at the end.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm complaining that I had too much, but we definitely added it a lot for the conditions. And then it wasn't pleasant. I mean, if you saw the race, I mean, it was kind of like a single file. Nobody was trying to really run high. I passed Graham up high because I had a lot of downforce, but then you know, I needed the downforce to get there at the end, and then we get there in the end, and then I wish I didn't have enough to.
Yeah, you can see yourself right here.
Yeah, that was you know, it was 3 wide, and I remember Brian Barton saying the 3rd man in should be the 1st man out, so I was out.
So you are now the points leader by 1 over Briscoe.
That's good momentum. I mean, what can I say? I mean, we're going to Indianapolis, and I'm going to try my best again. We'll see what's going to happen.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Tony Kanaan has 9 top 5 finishes in the last 15 oval track races, and he is the points leader going to Indianapolis. We've got a lot more drivers to talk to when we come back on Versus. Top 5 finishers at Kansas: Scott Dixon, Elio Castroneves, Tony Kanaan, Ryan Briscoe, and Danica Patrick. And for Danica, it's her 9th top 10 finish in the last 12 oval races going back to the start of 2008. She's with Lindy.
And Danica, I know you give a lot of credit right now to your pit crew.
Yeah, they did a great job in the last stop. I, was kind of in that, back of that front pack, and then they got me a good stop and moved up a couple of spots, and then we had a good restart. Got by Marco, and then I thought maybe even Briscoe. I was right on him, and I made a move, and just with the gusts of wind and with following people in 3 and 4 right behind them, there's no air to be had, and you understeer up the track. So lost a little bit of ground, but I really think that my engineer Eddie did a great job this weekend. We didn't start off so good. We were fast, sure, but fast doesn't get you into the top 5 for the race. So we made improvements every single session, and again from the morning till this one. So I felt good. I felt good on the outside around 3 and 4, which was one of the big things for today that was going to be pivotal on whether or not you were going to be able to be at the front, and we got there. So I really look forward to the next one, though.
We'll see you then. Thank you, Danica. Down to Jack.
Well, Graham Rahal may have started on the pole, but you said you had to go out and play Explorer out on the racetrack. What were you looking for?
Yeah, I mean, my car was pretty good in 1 and 2, and then anytime I get down to 3 and 4, it's just a lot of understeer. And that's how, I got passed by 3 guys today, and that's how all 3 of them got me. I came out wide out of 4, and they would sneak underneath me, and then there's nothing I can do. So it's unfortunate, because at the end there, I found the high line, and the car was good up there, and I passed 3 or 4 guys right at the end, and I wish we had found that speed earlier when we were closer to Marco and Danica, because I think we were as quick, if not quicker than them. But disappointing day for the McDonald's boys. Yeah, there was an exciting moment, though, for you, and that was when you decided to make Stan Barrett a sandwich. You decided that you were not going to lift. If you take a look here in the monitor, what were you thinking? Yeah, no, I did that twice, actually. I put Dornbos in the sandwich, too, earlier, but you know what? You got to use them as a pick to get by, and sometimes, unfortunately, in oval racing, that's the way this goes. It's crazy, I know. Trust me, I think it's crazy, and I'm the one out there, but you got to get by. And I knew that we had a couple pit stops that we lost a couple positions, so that was going to be our way forward, and so. You just got to use them as a pick. I used my teammate as a pick, too, so we're great. Hey, guys, no truth to the rumor at the McDonald's drive-thru tomorrow morning. There'll be a Barrett sandwich.
Graham finishes 7th. It's his best ever oval track finish. His previous best was 10th at Iowa last year. We'll wrap it up in a moment. Scott Dixon wins here. Here's how it all went down, Jan.
And really the highlights show you how the race was won. Vitor said Hideki chopped him, and then Castroneves right into the back. You would have thought that would have knocked him out of the race, but they got it repaired. He's still in the running. Now, wash, aerodynamic wash, and grip was a story all day. Rafael Matas, unfortunately, got into that wash of Mario Marias. That was a factor all day, trying to go high. Now, first of all, Briscoe, a fantastic stop off of pit road, exactly what Penske wanted. But look at this, Scott Dixon showed his muscle early, even when people were saving fuel. Here was the moment of the race that Roger Penske thought he was on pit road, but by 1.6 seconds, timing and scoring says he did not make it. That is what hurt Ryan Briscoe with track position, and when the final stop of the day came on pit road, Scott Dixon left. The crew looked, Ricky Davis realizes we got our man out first, and that was what made the difference. Let's get to Robbie Floyd.
Well, Ryan Briscoe just saw just a moment ago what happened in the pits. What were you feeling at that time when they told you to come in and then you hear the yellow comes out?
I knew we'd gotten hosed when Roger said I couldn't pit, and we just had to drive through the pit lane. So It's just one of those deals. It's really unfortunate. We definitely had the car to win today, and we had the track position until that happened. So it's really unfortunate. But I'm pretty happy that I'm in a position where I'm complaining about not having won it because we had the car to win today. But we'll take the points fourth, and you know, it was a really good race today. So you know, I'm pretty happy overall.
And T. Penske also in second place in points, just one behind TK. That's like being in the lead, right?
Yeah, it's early days, but at least we're up there. You know, we've been collecting points, and you know, we're only 3 races in here, but we just got to keep this up. You know, we got very fast cars at Team Penske this year.
It's definitely a long season. Thanks, Ryan. Jack?
A hard-fought and a well-deserved 9th place finish for the Menards entry for Ed Carpenter, and it was a wild ride for you.
It was a wild day. The conditions were crazy. You know, first of all, I'd like to thank the fans that did come out and watch us. I think a lot of people were scared to come out, afraid another tornado was going to strike today. The weather was so crazy, but I'm happy to be in the top 10 again. You know, but a little disappointed. We got beat by some cars that shouldn't have beat us today. That last yellow kind of threw us off sync when we were all pitting, and Dario had his accident. So it's okay. We had a good run. It felt good to get up front and mix it up again, and looking forward to Indy.
Hey guys, we're all looking forward to Indy, the land of Oz. Let's roll out that yellow brick road and go from Oz right to Indianapolis.
And for Ed Carpenter, it's his 8th top 10 finish on an oval, going back to the start of the 2008 season, and here is the full field rundown. Hideki Muto has a good race, finishing in 8th position, and all 4 of the AGR cars were up there in the top 8. And there were 11 cars on the lead lap when the final checkered flag dropped. And there is the remainder of the finishing order, with Vitor Meira finishing in the 22nd position. As far as points are concerned, heading to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Tony Kanaan by just 1 over Ryan Briscoe. Dario Franchitti drops from 1st to 3rd. The winner today, Scott Dixon, jumps up to 4th, and Danica Patrick is 5th, going to Indianapolis. So that's our next thing that we look forward to. Again, lots of coverage at Indy on Versus, because we are going to have extensive coverage of qualifications. In fact, all 4 days. Scott Dixon wins here at Kansas. Coming up next, Hockey Central, Bill Patrick, followed by the New Jersey Devils and Carolina Hurricanes, Game 6 of the NFL Eastern Conference Playoffs. Join us Saturday, May 9th, when we kick off our Indianapolis 500 coverage with a full day of pole day qualifying action at noon. You can find IZOD at your local Macy's. For information on IndyCar, log on to Versus.com. Congratulations to Scott Dixon, the winner of the Kansas IndyCar 300 on Versus.